This episode is brought to you by MYBOOKIE.AG. Guys, you can bet on everything over at MyBookie. Not a sports fan? Also not a problem. Over at MYBOOKIE.AG, you can bet on things like politics, who's going to jump in the presidential race, who's going to fall out. You can bet on the Bachelorette. I know how you guys like to watch The Bachelor, all you crazies out there that are sitting there and actually believe that these people are falling in love. You can bet on what gold digger you think is going to hook up with some bachelorette or bachelor. It's all ridiculous, but you can put your hard-earned cheddar down on stuff like that. You can put it down on, they got MMA fights almost every single weekend now between UFC and Bellator. We got March Madness coming up, and all you have to do is play. The minimum deposit is $45. Everything that you deposit, $100 and less, they match 50%. Anything $100 and more, they match 100%. So, you deposit $45, you get whatever half of 45 is. I'm not good at math. They give that back to you within a couple business days. They put that back into your account. So, it's a ton of fun. Again, you play, you win, you get paid. Even on things like who's going to win the presidential race in 2020. MyBookie.ag, guys. Click the link in the bio and have fun. And please, please play responsibly. This episode is also brought to us by Soldier Socks. Soldier Socks is doing great things out there. They are really making a difference. I'm seeing it more and more. If nothing else, go follow them on Instagram. You guys will be so inspired by what they're doing. When you buy a pair of socks, they send a pair of socks to a service member, and it says on the tag on the pair of socks, it says this pair of socks was presented by the person who bought them. So that's cool, man. It makes it kind of personal for the service member, and I really like that you're doing that. You can go over to Soldier Socks, also a link in the description. Use code CAM10, bam, save you 10% off. Service members still gets their socks. You can't beat that. So guys, go over and support a good cause over there. Last but certainly not least, never least, B-Town CBD is hanging out with us, supporting this show. We got big things coming with B-Town CBD. You guys hopefully are liking the review videos for the strain reviews. I think you guys have been. The numbers have been crazy on that, and I really appreciate you guys supporting that. And guys, if you need any sort of CBD, you guys know I prefer flower, but if you like the capsules, you like the oils, you like the edibles, you like whatever it is, the salves, the body rubs, all that, B-Town CBD is where it's at. You head over there, use code CAM20, saves you 20% off anything over $19.99. And guys, their shipping is unreal. They're very fast. Guys, go over there, support B-Town CBD with the link in the description. All right, sponsorships taken care of. Today feels special. Today feels special because I have two very special men joining me in the studio. Some of my best friends that are out there. Tylor and Taylor Gentry, twin brothers. You guys have met them before. They've been on the show before, so if you want to listen to their first podcast, do that after this, and you can see kind of how their lives have changed since we talked to them last. But they're both very ambitious brothers who operate on very different hard drives, and I think you guys are going to see that as our talk plays out here. They should be walking in the studio any moment now. So, welcome with me, Tylor and Taylor Gentry.
You don't say that. So you're telling me there's a chance? Oh, Jesus, help.
Focus walking around.
I can't see it
either. I can't see it either because when we hit it, we moved it. That's all. We'll check it every couple minutes. You guys good to jump right in?
Yeah. Hey, I'm ready whenever you are, Slick.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. It's your boy Cam. We in this bitch. We are here with Tylor and Taylor Gentry as promised in the promo of this episode. Guys, say what's up.
Hey,
what's
how's
up?
it going?
What's
up? We can cuss on this show, right?
Well, good.
You can say whatever in the fuck you would like.
Whatever in the fuck.
Whatever in the
I
fuck
didn't mean
you
to
would
say
like.
that. I'm trying to stop cussing.
It's a struggle. Have you ever actually tried to do that where you've made a conscious effort to be like, okay, for the next 7 days, I'm not going to swear?
I'm currently, sorry. I'm rude.
I would argue I'm probably the more prudish of the group, and even for me, that's really hard.
To not swear?
Yeah, I can't.
See, I don't see you as a big swearer.
Oh,
I
God.
do when I'm not recording. Most of the time when I'm recording a podcast, I mean, obviously when we're doing anything with Count Terhune, we don't, but...
Right, because that's not his
But
stuff.
generally, I think I've gone... Whenever I do press interviews, there's just sort of this thing with my, for lack of a better word, persona that I don't cuss.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm on the mic or I'm like in front of a camera, I just don't.
That's exactly how I am. I don't cuss on there.
I tried that
Instagram,
for a really long time, and it's hard but the thing was, a big part of my draw used to be that you could bring your kids, like you could be scrolling through your stuff, I would pop up, and your kids could watch it. Now, not so much.
Yeah.
because like, well, in the podcast space, I pretty much assume kids are not listening to this. They're not young children who would be so impressionable to be like, where did you learn that word?
Right.
And they're like, the Road to Redemption podcast.
Yeah.
They're not.
I would say the demo is probably 15 to
But even Instagram, I mean, if you're old enough to be on Instagram,
listen.
I'm probably not the worst thing you're going to experience on your Instagram feed.
true.
So
There's a lot of yeah. There's a lot of young kids doing it nowadays. So it's
young.
like
Yeah.
12, 13 years old. Like to me, that's too young to be on.
When I started Instagram, I thought I didn't have an Instagram until I was 24, 25, and it's because I thought that
How old are
only. Huh?
How old are you right now?
I just turned 27 2 weeks ago.
I didn't.
I only had
I only had Facebook since I was like 17, because I was really late. Because you had already had one, Tyler, and then like I had MySpace.
I had MySpace.
Oh, I mean, I had MySpace.
I had
But I don't remember when I got it.
Right, but I remember you had a Facebook long before I did, and you were basically kind of giving me the old, come on, old man, you need to upgrade.
Right.
So I got a Facebook in 2010, and I've had one since.
My whole thing has just been, I never had a point. I never had a purpose. Like, what am I going to go, oh, hey, this is me. I'm walking out of my thing, going to my 9 to 5. I didn't have, like, a side hustle. My Instagram actually made me more ambitious than I was.
I would say that's everyone's thing now.
Yeah.
If it weren't
Everyone.
for Count Terhune, I probably wouldn't have a social media account of any kind. Because I really don't. And granted, I know I sound kind of hypocritical because I know on my personal Instagram, I take selfies every now and then and do that. But that's really more of like trying to get people more engaged in what I'm doing, so that they can, by proxy, be interested in Count Terhune. But if it weren't for that, like if I were just, maybe somebody who was a little less ambitious, no pun intended.
I know I've said it twice.
I probably wouldn't be interested in having a social media at all, because I'm just not that kind of, like, I feel like most people out there will be perfectly fine not knowing what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis.
I've always been a social butterfly, though, so
Well, I'm social too, but at the same time, it's like, my group of friends might care what I'm doing, but outside of that, I mean, does anybody really care what I'm up to?
The craziest part is when you realize that they do. When you realize that it's so strange to think about, but like if we were to hold it up right now, or I'll probably do here in a second, and show that what we're doing, hey, this is what we're going on to, people are like, oh, dude, that's dope as shit. They're in the studio.
Or like, I have nowhere near a following, but like, I have people that I don't, like, either I have no idea who they are, and they're like, hey man, you're killing it, and I'm like, first of all, I'm so grateful. But second of all, there's people that I've created. I mean, this is a prime example.
Yeah.
I never would have known anything. Like, if it wasn't for social media, we would not have a best friendship.
No, I think we found each other on a Gold's Gym post thing.
Something like that. Yeah. And, like, so you can't, there's not too much negative connotation to social media, because I would have it because of that, reasons like that,
It's getting that way for Count Terhune. Like, I get random comments, random messages from people. Yeah. Now, granted, I get a lot of like spam messages, like, "Hey, you want to increase your follower by 51,000?" Right. But every now and then I do get, I'll get somebody who's like, "Hey, you love what you're doing, keep doing it."
Well, that's the span of social media right now. It's so, we don't think about it, but it is so fucking new. Like 10 years ago, when all of us were in school, we didn't have access to the kind of shit we have now. So when you when people find others that they find interesting, and they may find you interesting for a week, they may find you interesting for the rest of your life, but they're like, okay, this is the new show that I watch, this guy in his life, and the problem is people go, well, I'm not that interesting. So they start to flex, and they start to rent cars that they don't own, and they start to do these outlandish videos that are either dangerous or just, in my opinion, stupid. You're like, but people flock to it. They're like, oh my gosh, look at what that person's doing. And I think as a content creator, which we all are, we look at it very different. We're not looking at it as a viewer, we're looking at it as a content creation. So when you have a video of some guy having a birthday cake and he just runs up and smashes it in a stranger's face and it goes viral, to us, you're like, that's ridiculous. Like, why would you treat someone like that just to get views? But it works.
But dude, that's the downfall to the space, in my opinion. Like, I feel like, which is why I follow guys like you, follow guys like Cam, and look Tater stuff up, and the stuff that I follow is just, you know, it's brings value. It's valuable. I guess, like somebody walking up and smacking somebody in the face, or pissing on people, or weird stuff like that.
R. Kelly.
R.I.P. I did not pee on that girl. I swear.
R.I.P. R. Kelly in his whole career.
No, he'll be back.
But it's like for every one Cam, or for every one Count Drahoon, like there's like 3 or 4 Logan Paul-esque kind of people.
And honestly,
man, I've tried so hard to give that boy a break.
To some people, his content is credible and it's valuable and for a good laugh.
Well, for like 12-year-olds.
If you're watching it for the sole thing of this is ridiculous, like we used to watch Jackass. I don't know about you guys. I loved Jackass.
I remember watching
it. But I watched it going, this is insane. Like, this is absurd.
But see, that's the thing. The wow factor.
Yeah.
Everybody's wow factor is a scale. You know, like, to me, my wow factor would be 0 to hero.
Sure.
By bringing value as far as positivity and creating brands, the Rob Dyrdeks of the world, the Ed Milet's, and the people that I look up to. And some people's wow factor is filming dead people in a suicide film. Like, that to me is like, whoa, buddy, you're just whoa.
You just gotta check yourself. To me, like, I think in the space, especially if you have an audience, with great power comes great responsibility.
Wow.
When you have a space, you have to respect that people are actually listening. The things you say are going to affect the way that people see a certain situation. And I think if you don't tread carefully in that space, that's why we have the overcorrection we do now of every time somebody says anything that's off color, it's, oh, well, now I'm offended. Because people keep seeing that their kids are watching the Logan Pauls and the whoever else, the craziest ones were those people that used to dress up like clowns and run around and like smash watermelons. That's hilarious. But until one of those people gets shot and killed because he was doing something for a YouTube video.
I watched that kid, shoot, I can't even remember his name now. But he had on his 16th birthday, he got an Audi R8 and he got reflective paint.
I've seen those, yeah.
And he was like, today we're going to smash a skateboard through my windshield. And I regretfully, I fell in the wormhole and watched the video, and it was the most just ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Like, him and his friends staged this thing on Beverly Hills Boulevard. Like, all right, we're going to run up, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to grab the skateboard and smash my windshield, you're going to cause a riot, and we're all going to run. And I was like,
to me, that's a talent wasted. Because you have you're a director. I mean, you're a director. You have the talent to go, hey, this is what we need to do to pull this whole thing together and make a viral video. Why not do it for something not destructive, not wasting of a resource? Now, again, if Ferrari, the car you're smashing, is sponsoring the video and they're going to fix your shit,
I'm saying.
I mean, how can you be mad at it?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. We don't know. I mean, I don't know the back end of it, but like, it probably pulled in a whole bunch of money. And he even said, I can't remember the kid's name, but he even said at the beginning of the video, he was like, yeah, YouTube views are down, so you gotta do this stuff to get the views, and it's like.
And now you can't do that. So now YouTube.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's
YouTube's guidelines have changed. You can't do pranks. You can't do outrageous shit.
I saw yesterday that
they're gonna start pulling it.
Disney, they pulled like millions of dollars of ad money again because this happened last year, and they pulled money again because Disney. This movie's coming out was in front of like people flipping cars and killing people and this weird stuff, so they don't want their ads in front of it.
We don't tap that camera for me with that button. Well, and what we just talked about too in the space of social media, the three of us just sat here and was crying laughing at Oh Hello on Broadway. And it's because as content creators, we're seeing the back side of the house, the front side of the house, the talent of it, what these guys had to do and become to make that possible. To me, a 17-year-old kid flashing money that he didn't earn, but it's his parents' money. I'm like, there's no real talent in that. There's no real... Now, again, I'm a curmudgeon. I'm a full-fledged curmudgeon. When something a curmudgeon, it's somebody who, like when something becomes popular, I hate it.
Oh.
I'm kind of the same way.
Gotcha.
But it depends on what it is.
I mean, you've seen me go through that. Like, I was with Christian Guzman and his whole run, like Max Tuning, until they hit that level when everyone's watching, and then I'm like, I don't want to hear about it anymore. Like, I get it.
It's old news when it's new news type deal. Like when it becomes new, you're like, I've been watching that.
Well, and when people take it so far, like I always hope that people listen to my message and they take the parts that apply to them. But I hope people never look at me as an example as to how to live your life. And people do that with him. They're like, well, I'm the alphalete in the ghost lifestyle. And it's like, you are just now Christian Guzman. You are not yourself liking the products that he likes anymore. You're becoming him so that way you can be a personality on social media.
That makes sense.
That's there was a podcaster I used to listen to, and this may be a little bit different about what we're talking about, but there was this podcaster I listened to for a long time. I primarily listened to him because I really liked his take on like the news and politics and economics and stuff. But the last couple of years, like every now and then he'd throw in an episode that was like motivational, and they were really good. Like my favorite episode of his was like a whole hour. He just talked about his life story, and it was just fascinating. But then over the last couple of years, like he kind of started to get, I would say, a little full of himself, and he started doing more and more of the motivational stuff, and he was attracting a lot of different kinds of people to his show that weren't exactly my demographic per se. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just, it was a shift change that I didn't feel comfortable with. So over time, like he actually completely rebranded his show. So like now he's only doing motivational. And so I kind of tuned him out. You found your stop on the bus, you know? Yeah. That's your time where, hey, the way that this show has grown, just like people do, you grew apart from that show, with where he was going. Because for a long time, he was my favorite podcaster. Like, that was my favorite show. Like, I would, I don't want to say out loud. Okay. But he was really good, and I still, like, appreciate him because, like, he actually offered a really good podcasting course that I took. And it was good stuff. Like he gave solid information, but it just, I don't know. So that leads right into what we were talking about before we started the show. We all said, well, let's save this for the podcast. The art of podcasting, because now we can officially say you recorded the first episode. We are all podcasters in here.
Cool. It feels great.
It's such a unique space. Yeah. Because literally right now, it's three dudes, and we're not talking any differently than we were before the camera started recording. We're talking about the same shit, and people just go, hey, I want to tune in. I want to be a fly on the wall in that. People look and go, well, this is an easy thing. You just hook up a mic and you start talking. It's not. It's. I think all three of us can say how hard it is. You have to be able, because what we were talking about is we're literally talking to each other and we're bouncing ideas around, but we're talking to an audience that's not in the room. Right. We're giving different pieces of context that maybe you would not if we were just sitting here talking. You know, you're explaining through things more. You're being recorded. For some people, that's enough to mentally send the conversation off the rail. And people now, the space is becoming very saturated. Yes.
I mean, it's just like anything else. Like when Facebook became a thing, everyone had a Facebook.
Well, it's like
Instagram. Yeah, when YouTube. Yeah,
everybody. Like I've got a YouTube channel.
Right. I mean, everyone has YouTube. I think it's my theory. And I mean, this is my opinion. It's the same thing with business, with social media, with just anything in general. Like the cream always rises. Like anybody, and this is a mindset thing, like a thing that I try and instill in myself and people that I talk to on a daily basis. Learned it from riding dirt bikes. Was champions are always made on their bad days. Anybody can do anything good on their good days, but when you're having a shitful day and everything's going wrong, that's when a true champion comes about, you know? So, in my opinion, everyone's like, oh, I'm starting a podcast, or I'm doing this for social media, and I'm going to do this. Like, of course, it's going to be good when it's good. Of course it is.
I follow a woman on Instagram who's been talking about launching her podcast for over a year, and she hasn't done anything. Right,
and that's what I'm saying. Most people, oh, it's this, or oh, it's this, or oh, I'm going to do it when I do this, and people wait for the right time. People do it, and I mean, speaking for myself, like, I'm a victim of, I'm going to do this whenever I get my shit together. And I was telling Taylor on the drive up here.
I'm kind of like that, too.
Nobody has their shit together. So if you wait till you have your shit together, you're going to be 75. Like, man, I really wish I would have done that.
And that's that kind of mentality, that is why I would argue why I think I'm not as far along as I could be. Because I was in that mindset for a long time about, well, you know, if I get this right, you know, then I'm ready to do this. You know, as soon as I get to point A, then I can get to point B. That
always, you know, kind of off topic, but that's always astounded me. Because how you are when you do that, I am the exact opposite. I will put every iron I have, throw it in the fire, and if they just don't work, I'll just pull them out, throw them away, and just keep going.
At some point, like, it's good to have, like, a plan and have phases to that plan to get to it, but at some point you just gotta do it.
Right.
And that's what I did. I just, over the last couple of years, I'm like, you know what, screw it. I don't have anything else to lose. Let's just do it.
Right.
Well, and him and I talked about that pretty recently, where that's just how things happen.
Yeah.
Things literally happen because when you're in a space, now what separates people that last and the people that don't is you fall in love with the actual process.
Right.
Yes.
Everything about this process, to setting up the studio, to the mic, to hitting record, to just hanging out, I love this process.
Editing, and you're like, oh, I can make this cooler by doing this. Oh, yeah.
And even on the worst day, I mean, I think it was 2 episodes ago, I walked in the studio and I sent you the notes that I had for this episode. I had nothing. I had nothing. I was sick. I had every reason to get on here and bitch, moan, and complain about what was going on in my life. And I sat in front of the mic and I went 1, 2, 3, record, and I'm like, fuck, I got nothing.
See, that right there, that just, it warms my heart, sets a fire under me, because I'm a firm believer in dirt bikes is created. This whole mindset's dirt bikes, it always has been. But that champions made on their bad days thing, like, it's relationships, business, friendships. Literally, you give me one thing, and champions are made on their bad days. If you want to succeed at something, you have to do it when you're sick, when your girlfriend breaks up with you, when your dog dies. Like, to me, the outlet of building businesses, doing podcasts, when my best friend died, the only thing that I had to keep me going was the thought of, like, he wanted to do something with me and build a business, so guess what I'm doing? And it was almost essentially an outlet versus something that's like, oh, I can't do this. You know, it's just that mindset, to me, is what creates greatness. Like,
over the last month, I've been sick with an upper respiratory infection.
You got the clap. No, I'm just kidding.
Avoid the clap.
Jimmy Dugan.
That's good advice.
Solid advice.
League of their own reference.
Yeah.
No one knows.
Got a URI, kind of, sort of got dumped. And was there a third thing?
I'm sure. I'm just kidding.
Life just wasn't happening the way you wanted it to.
Well, yeah, let's just say that. Yeah. But in the midst of all that, I had crap to do.
Right.
Like, there's editing to be done, there's emails to be sent, there's show prep to be done, there's rehearsal schedules to be made. And granted, I have not taken care of myself properly. I know that. And there's a lot of people that have come up to me who I love dearly, who love me, and they're like, dude, you gotta slow down. If you don't, you know, you're gonna be out. You're gonna push yourself too far, you're gonna be out longer. But it's like, I hear you.
I don't have time.
You know what?
But I can't.
Yeah. You know what I say?
I have 0 time to slow down.
You can slow down, and it's super cliche, but, like, you can slow down when you retire, honestly. Like, I look at my grandfather and everything that man's done, you know, like, it's time for him to slow down. He's 78 years old. 79. His knees don't work, his fucking arms don't work, but that dude, I mean, he played for the Yankees. He owned the Sounds, of all things to own. Like, the dude has had stress. But when you look at it that way, it's like you can, like, and I always look at it growing up with looking at Dad, you know, like, military guy, was essentially keeping up the house for us, doing out yard work, stuff like that. I've seen that dude literally bedridden. Most people would be dead. Yeah. And him being like, I just got stuff to do, man. And it's like, well, shit, if he can do it, I guess I need to do it. You know?
I shot a movie yesterday. I was on set for like almost 10 hours. I got there.
It's crazy.
Well, I got there way earlier than I should have, but for whatever reason yesterday, I woke up at 4 o'clock and I just couldn't go back to bed.
I would have had to go in that early because
Yeah.
I've been
So,
having
right.
shit 3 times.
So I was just like, you know what, screw it. I can't go back to sleep. I'm just gonna go ahead, get ready, head on up there, kind of get there early in case I can't find my way around campus. Glad I did that because I could not find my way around the place. But I was still 45 minutes early before call time.
Right.
I got there like 8:15. I was there from basically 8:15 till like 7:15 at night. We wrapped shooting at 10 till 6. Kind of stayed a little over because there was some really bad weather, so I was trying to ride it out. But yeah.
And the funniest thing about that whole thing, I got a text at like 9 p.m. the day before, and he was like, "Hey, I'm playing this hipster entrepreneur in this movie. I need some of your clothes." And I was like, "Wow."
They're like, well,
I'm gonna kill myself.
hurtful.
Thanks. Yeah.
That's hurtful.
First of all, thanks, dickhead. Second of all, yeah, sure, I'll be.
Also, you know where my closet is. You didn't need to say that hurtful shit to me. You could have just gone and...
How about this? I don't have any clothes.
Yeah.
Douche.
Yeah.
That's good.
What?
That was hilarious.
Well, so going back to what we were talking
Yeah,
about.
that was
in the space of it all. I think, too, when you talk about the people... Think of the biggest names doing this right now. Joe Rogan, Gary Vee, Andy Frisella. And there's plenty of others. I don't listen to the history ones. I don't listen to the political ones because I just couldn't give a shit less. But that's what's big in my space. Not my space, but the space that I operate in.
The space of Cam Williams.
The space that I operate in.
Is MySpace?
No, Justin Timberlake bought MySpace like 4 years ago, and he never did shit with it.
Nothing. He played in that movie. He played in that Facebook movie. He was like,
Yeah,
you know
and he
what?
bought
I'm
it.
gonna buy
Yeah, he did.
MySpace and try and flip it around.
And-
Touche, Justin.
But what I've noticed, and again, I talk about this all the time, maybe you guys can help me brain bug this out.
Sure.
When you get the Gary V's and the Andy Frisellas and the Lewis Houses and the...
That's a good one. I
Who
heard
else?
a horrible thing about him the other day.
Yeah, well, you know.
Go ahead.
But that's the thing. You can't be that guy all the time. It's bullshit. You're not the Gary V. You're not the Andy Frisella, which is the come on motherfuckers. It's you're not that guy all the time. So if every time you come into the studio and I hit record, I've got to be that. To me, that's easy. I can act because I can do that. That's in my wheelhouse of thing. I can act, but I feel like I'm doing the person on the other side of the camera a disservice because on the day that I feel like shit, life happened to me. I have 30 lessons in there that I could tell, but in my head I'm going, dude, no one wants to hear you bitch.
I think the people, the reason that they listen to your platform is because of the realness and things like that. And I know my business partner knows Andy, and he doesn't particularly care for the style of what it is, but he will tell you that Andy's that guy
all the time. Yeah, that's probably who he is.
So I look at it as two different things. Most of the time, people come to your space and Taylor's space and my space and other people's spaces, the Andys, the Lewises, to get nuggets. And
they take what they want.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Most of those people take everything that you're saying and bring it in. So it doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter to them whether you're in a good mood, that's who you are when you're on the street or not. It just matters of the nuggets that they're grabbing from what they're listening to. I think personally where all of these things are going, like influencer marketing, podcasting, all this stuff is going, is people look for the real anyway. So if you've had a shitty day, people expect you to say, listen, I've had a really crappy day, and I don't really feel like doing anything, and and people expect to get nuggets from that. So I think that's where it's going. I mean, again, I'm not somebody special by any means, but
I think, what's up? No, that's good. Yeah. I think too, it's just people get tired of the same bullshit.
Right.
Because I can sit on here. We all.
You want water? Give me your water.
You want one without it?
Yeah.
I got one.
Is that what this is?
Yeah. People sit there, and they're like, okay, I've heard this. I know what you're gonna tell me. I need to hustle. I need to grind. I need to do this. But what about the day that I feel like dog shit and life is really happening to me? Again, where some people are made for podcasting, some people are not. You cannot turn this microphone on and bitch about your life. It's not going to work. No one wants to sit in a room and listen to you bitch about your life. What you have to be able to do is objectively work shit out on a mic. You have to give the this is what I would do in my headspace right now. And then 10 minutes later, on the same microphone in the same episode, you're going, I'm a fucking moron. That makes no sense to do that because that's only self-depreciating, and I'm going to do myself no good by taking that ride is something people will do. Don't take the ride with you. If they know, because of your track record, that you're going to come to a place of, okay, that was helpful.
I think Count Drahoon bitching and complaining about his life might make for an interesting episode.
Count Drahoon, but again,
he's got a long life.
In that space,
he's got a lot to bitch about.
In that space, could you imagine how funny that would be?
It'd be pretty funny.
A couple 100-year-old, I don't know how old he is, but...
So he's like over 1,500.
Okay, so a couple
so he's lived through
thousand
some
years.
crazy stuff.
So yeah, like listening to that character do that would be hilarious. But again, me as a guy sitting in front of a recording, you know, they'd be like, dude, what the fuck? Get your
I don't know,
stuff
man.
together.
Like I said, if you're falling into that self-help, self-development thing, you know, most people, I don't know. It's hard to say because my mindset's like, I know my lows are low, so hearing someone else that have low lows.
Yeah.
I feel like on the road to redemption, you're gonna have. I mean.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
When you're on a road, I mean, you're gonna hit potholes.
It's not like not a straight line. It's like a circle.
You're gonna go off the main road a little bit, weird detours.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm being so
that
cliche
was
right
very
now.
cliche.
That was so cliche.
Yeah, that's a YouTube
But
clip.
all that stuff came into when I thought of the name Road to Redemption. All that stuff was like, well, that makes sense because I'm a fucking mess. And if you look, like, there's part of 24 right now, which is a road that is torn to shit and back. I mean, it is jacked up. But you still take the road. You learn. Okay, I don't go that way.
See, that's where I
maybe not go 75 miles an hour when I'm going over a pothole. You know, maybe kind of slow down and
maybe go faster.
Or when things are in the middle of the road, you don't have to speed over them. You can slow down, assess the situation. You know, there's...
Right. That's where I think in your space and on the Ambition podcast and other podcasts like that, it's almost acceptable to say I've had a really crappy day and work it out. To where somebody like Tylor, who's a storyteller,
I was gonna say I've got this weird mental image. It's like I talk about ambition. I talk about getting right with yourself and the path forward. I play a vampire.
Yeah, right. So it's a little different.
It's a little different. So people, when I go to Tylor's, I don't want to hear about his day. I want to hear a good story. You know what I mean? To where I go on there to listen, like, maybe Cam could help me out today. You know, that's the same thing with Ambition. My goal with it is to hear these success stories of, like, I started here and did this and then failed here and failed here and failed here and now I'm here, and it's like, whoa. But I've been there. I can relate to that. Let's turn my life around. That's the amazing thing about collaboration, though, is because if the three of us turn this mic off right now, reset, went back to the drawing board, and our whole goal was to make a Count Drahoon podcast where he's bitching about his day, we would do it, and it would be phenomenal. Absolutely. I mean, again, we'd take it the whole level where his hair would be all fucked up. He's sitting here just
makeup run
with a thing of whiskey in his hand or something. Like, we would take it to the point where people would be like, that was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah,
and on a day where otherwise Tylor would have had nothing to do in the studio, he just creates this masterpiece that people are like, wow. Again, not everybody can do that when you have to be able to sit behind a microphone, tell your woes, and make it entertaining somehow.
I would agree. That would be it. Man, talk about we should write that down.
I think that would be a hilarious episode. For those of you, so tell them about the podcast. I mean, they heard you last time, and a lot of people, that's still one of people's favorite episodes. But for the people that may have joined since then.
Because you've had a lot of people that have joined since that first.
Yeah. Who would have known Cam the Man as a podcaster?
That was the first, wasn't it? Was that the first episode we did?
That was one of them. It was like
I think it was episode 3. Yeah.
It's like the first 5.
Yeah.
Look at that.
This is 76.
Look at the Hall of Fame. No one's on it except us.
That's it.
There's a nice picture right over here.
Yeah, got my father-in-law's grandfather or something.
That's nice. That's real nice.
So yeah, tell them about Count Drahoon and kind of what they can expect.
Well, that's the thing is, like,
I know you're kind of in a transition phase.
Expect the unexpected. That's
wow, that's a really good way of putting it.
But I mean, it is because, like, I have an eclectic show. I like variety, probably a little bit more than most people should, but I do. I like to give people a lot of. So with my show, the way I describe it is a horror comedy podcast,
Mm-hmm.
we typically do what you would call audio plays. Another word for that would be radio dramas.
Mm-hmm.
If you know anything about like old time radio, like Orson Welles' The War of the Worlds and The Shadow, Inner Sanctum, those old, plays that would be on radio, you could listen to them. That's essentially the same format. Now we don't do like old radio dramas that have already been done. Like this is all.
It's all new stuff.
It's all original content. Most of the episodes that you hear, I wrote them. Every now and then, like my friends will contribute episodes, but for the most part, I've written most of the episodes. Basically, my alter ego is Count Drahoon. He's a 1500-year-old vampire who has a wide collection of horror stories. Some are scarier than others, some are just outright hilarious.
And has a Frankenstein-type son.
Yes. And a lot of times his son Daryl will kind of come into the fray.
Who is hilarious. Shout out to that.
Daryl.
Daryl is funny.
Daryl, what a name. Yeah.
Funny.
So a lot of times whenever he's in the episode, it's usually stories from Drahoon's past,
Right.
or just sort of these weird adventures they kind of go on to from time to time.
Or something that's going on inside the castle that they live in.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, they met a gay mummy.
That was funny.
They actually had to have an incredible shrinking sub to go into the bladder of a wiener dog to fight a monster inside.
What?
So, things like that. Now, I mean, we tell lighthearted stories like that, but a lot of times we go into like really dark territory. I'm actually
is the best one ever.
that
Rose from Amelia is real close.
Meat Hank is good. I think this next one that I'm working on might be darker than A Rose from Amelia.
Wow.
The coolest thing about your show is, yes, it's all original content. You pick up on the vibe of what you're getting very, very quickly because you're listening to a movie essentially. You can't see it, but you imagine it in your mind because
that's how I wanted it.
Yeah, the noises in the background. I mean, you have feet crunching leaves. You've got the wind. You've got everything. So in that, and then also very early into the story, you may be introduced to a character that's like anything else. You're being introduced to it, but also you may meet a character that you've heard of, where as in like Death Rides a Pale Horse kind of thing, where you've heard that before. You may not know the whole story behind it. You may not, but you know what that is. You know the Headless Horseman. He may show up.
And you mentioned Death Rides a Pale Horse. So that one is based off of a Geoffrey Chaucer story called The Pardoner's Tale. I like to take old stories from the past, and public domain, of course, and then I tweak them a little bit, kind of make them at least a little bit more modern than what the original story was. Our next audio story is going to be a rendition of Edgar Allan Poe's The Cask of Amontillado.
See, I don't know what that is, but I will after I listen to that story.
So I did some. So the story, it's a revenge story. It's about. I'm spoiling it here, but it's about.
I wouldn't
spoil.
You don't want to spoil. Okay.
Give a teaser. But
Well, okay. Well, it's a classic revenge story. I tweaked it a little bit. Instead of it being set in the 1800s in Italy, it's actually set in the 1960s in Italy, and it has to do with the mafia. So,
yeah, I'm excited for that one.
That one's gonna be dope.
But yeah, so like we have things like that. I also do interviews with different guests.
Big into the monster scene.
Just either some sort of monster, sci-fi, or horror-related content. So I did an interview with the creators of King Falls AM, which is a really popular audio drama podcast. It's a really funny show. It's really well written. I've also done interviews with a lot of horror filmmakers, mostly indie, of course, and heck, I did an interview with a guy who just owns a non-profit film collective. It just shows like rare and obscure movies in New York. So it's a wide variety, as long as it's some sort of horror-related thing.
But it's in that space.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do, like I said, I like variety. It's a different. I don't think there's any other show that offers all of that. that offers interviews and audio dramas.
Yeah, I don't think.
And then we also we have expanded the last year or so. We're doing live shows, and right now you mentioned we're kind of in a weird transitional period. I'm actually changing off of websites right now so that Count Drahoon has his own WordPress site, and I'm also waiting to hear back from several venues in the area I live in to see if they're actually going to give us the go-ahead to perform at their respective theaters.
So in all that stuff that you do,
I need to take a drink.
and all that stuff that you do, and this same thing goes for you, and I definitely try to pay attention to it as well. Do you notice that the audience changes from an episode where it's an interview, or is it pretty consistent? You get the same amount of listeners from an interview that you would a story.
It kind of depends. I mean, I get good traffic whenever we get a good story.
Yeah.
But depending on who the guest is, a lot of times
they'll bring in
I try to interview guests that have a larger following than me,
sure, yeah,
so that I can leverage off their.
That's huge in podcasting.
Yeah, and it definitely helps. And fortunately for me, since there is such a close proximity in the kinds of things that we do, a lot of those folks that come in for like the first time to listen to whoever they're following, most of them stay,
right,
because they like what they're hearing.
Well, they're in a similar realm. You didn't pull somebody from a sports podcast and interview them on yours. Yeah.
But I mean, I do every now and then. I do kind of pull people that I wouldn't think would be interested in the kind of show that I do.
Well, and that's the beauty about what I do is I can talk to anybody. I can do
you're
whatever
pretty,
the hell I want.
You have a wide variety of SHIT to talk about, man.
Well, good you need curb yourself. The thing is, my weakness, a lot of people see it as a weakness, where I went from heavy into guns and the beards and the veteran community, and then I was big into I was big into physique and bodybuilding and fitness, and then now I'm kind of just a podcaster that trains MMA.
Right.
I did theater in school, and I did I've played drums my entire life, so I can operate in multiple spaces where it was seen as a weakness until a platform like this opens. You just have to be able to work to your strengths, and you got to be able to not talk about shit you obviously don't know anything about, because then you're going to get exposed as a phony, but you have to be able to...
A big fat phony!
You got to be able to sit down and just go, okay, am I still enjoying doing this? Because the day I don't enjoy doing this anymore, you turn it off and you wrap it up. Yeah, you wrap it up.
I'm glad you said that, because I feel like before this, the whole platform for podcasting and for just, the internet, online content creating, I feel like before all that, I would have ideas that the kinds of ideas that I have now, but I basically have no outlet to get them out there.
Yeah, it's definitely stepped your game up.
Well, it's that, and it's just growing up, it wasn't a very common thing for a young kid to be interested in old black and white monster movies. It still isn't, and it kind of makes you feel a little isolated, because you want to talk about Lon Chaney and Bela Lugosi to your friends, but your friends have no idea who those guys are.
Yeah.
Right.
So the internet is, not only has it opened the realm of possibilities for me to reach other folks out there with the kinds of tales that I have, but you can also reach out to people that actually like those kinds of movies, and you can just have a sense of camaraderie with those folks.
Well, and there's no shortage of content out there, so you can literally... There's a pool for everybody.
Right.
You can become a part of a community in anything.
Yeah.
Literally
Anywhere.
anything in your life that you enjoy, no matter, some people need to take it easy on some of the things they enjoy. If you're out there kissing feet, there's a community of that.
Yeah,
as weird as that is.
Let's not get too crazy.
Yeah, let's not get too wild.
It's not my thing.
But there's a community in everything.
Oh, yeah.
It's, are you willing to put yourself out on Front Street and go, hey, I'm into this. This is what I do. This is who I am.
Right.
And then you just find that there are people that are like, hey man, the crazy shit you're doing, I dig that.
Yeah. Or I had the same thoughts and I never did it, and now you're doing it, now I'm doing it. Like it's
There's a good analogy. A friend of mine taught me once. He was telling me about a video that he watched, and my friend happens to be a pastor, so he used this in a sermon of his. he was watching some YouTube video of this guy in some park somewhere. He was a drummer, like a Congo drummer, and he had like a whole line of drums just surrounding him, and he just starts. No, I'm sorry, I'm getting that mixed up with something else. Guy starts doing this crazy dance in the park. He's just dancing. It's this weird thing, and people are just kind of stopping to look. And no, I'm sorry. It's the Congo drummer. He's doing the drum, and then the guy's doing a crazy dance.
Got it.
So, and everybody's just kind of passing by and just looking at all of this craziness. And at the pivotal moment of this video, there's another guy that comes up and just starts doing the same dance. So these two people are dancing, and the Congo drummer keeps drumming, and then finally another person joins in.
Like a flash mob kind of
and
deal.
then before you know it, the whole park's just,
Interesting.
it's crazy that
Yeah.
everyone's dancing. And the point that he was making is that when you have something that you want to put out there, a message, a product, whatever, it's not that first customer that is the making or breaking point. It's that second person
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the make or breaker.
That's good.
Because you're
Yeah,
going to have
that's true.
somebody that's going to try what you do,
Yeah.
but if you can have more than that one somebody,
That's an audience.
that's an audience.
Well, and that's how you change the world. And I was literally just watching something yesterday, and I can't remember what it was, but that's virality. Oh, it was that new documentary on Netflix called Insta Famous. These people are, it's fucking terrible. These people are goddamn morons, and the fact that they're fucking famous sends me over the edge. But what they're saying is, you will get famous or get notoriety now, like we talked about in the beginning, for doing dumb shit.
Right.
There's a big fat guy, and all he does
I
is
saw
disrespect
Fusi or
the shit
whatever.
out of people.
Isn't his name
Yeah.
Fusi or something?
And he disrespects the shit out of people and then says that he's doing it to promote love. It's like, okay, that guy goes viral because you're looking at him, me, going, that's a jackass. That guy's a jackass, but like a train wreck, I can't not watch it for some reason because I watch it going, this guy's an idiot. He's a moron. But to your point, one person saw that video and either sent it to their friends going, look how fucking stupid this is, or look at this guy, this is funny.
Legend!
And then it goes 2, 6,
Yeah.
12,
Spreads.
and then it goes insane where these people are talking about they wake up the next day, they have 3,000 followers, they wake up, they have 30,000 because somebody just started to talk. Look at this. Even if it's not your thing, I know who he is.
I mean, that's how I found Gary Vee, dude.
Yeah,
You know, and
Yeah.
now you look at Gary Vee, everybody knows Gary Vee.
everybody knows who he
At the
is.
point a couple years ago when obviously since Tony Robbins and really even before them, I'm reading Think and Grow Rich right now. And
Tony Robbins is kind of the OG of the...
right, but
of
that's what I'm
the
saying. It started
mindset.
back in the 70s and 80s, and even this book I'm reading now is before
Who's
then.
the author of the one you're talking about? You
It's
sent it to
Napoleon
me.
Hill. Napoleon Hill. It was a to Andrew Carnegie, who was big in the
Obviously.
steel realm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Carnegie Hall.
Billions and billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah, Andrew Carnegie was
A genius. But anyway,
super rich.
you know, the self-development space started so long ago. And that's pretty much how it started, you know. A couple years ago is when I got into it, and it seems like now everybody knows who Gary Vee is. And it seems like now that, you know, me being in it 2 and 3 years, the first person I discovered was like a Tony Robbins, and people are just now,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
was
like
the beginning
people
of
are
my journey.
just now are like, dude, have you heard Tony Robbins this and that?
Yeah.
Have you seen I'm Not Your Guru on Netflix? I was like, yeah, I've seen it 15 times.
Yeah, I've
like,
watched it a
Speaking
thousand
of
times.
Napoleon Hill, I haven't read that, but I have read excerpts from the Gospel of Wealth by
Yeah.
Andrew Carnegie.
Yeah, and I've heard they mentioned that in the book.
It's good. I mean, the overall thing is just the idea, like, you know, there's nothing wrong with getting rich and being prosperous, but the thing is, like, as someone who is affluent and has influence and power, it is your responsibility to do good.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
that was the whole premise of his.
That's actually, it touches on that
and
a
like,
lot.
and
yeah.
Carnegie did a lot of good
Yeah,
things.
definitely.
Like, he built libraries, he built schools,
Absolutely.
he built Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
You guys keep this rolling. I'm gonna take a rest.
And he just did it out of
Just keep
the.
going.
He did it essentially like, and sure, he may have gotten like, you know, tax breaks and stuff, but I mean, he did do
But I mean,
a lot of
it's
good
not-
things.
For the most part, he didn't do it just for the tax breaks.
I mean, as
You
far
don't-
as I know.
You don't build multiple libraries. For tax
No,
breaks.
with the kind of money that he had.
Oh man, still probably. I mean, the guy's been dead for years, but he's got a lot of money still.
Sure, yeah.
You know, no pun intended with the steel stuff. But now that Cam's taking a break, this podcast rules.
Yeah, this podcast is pretty gosh darn shabby. Or not too shabby. God, I can't talk.
I don't know what you're. What? Shabby.
It's not too shabby.
This podcast is just shabby.
It's not shabby, is what I'm trying to say, but I'm not saying it good.
The conversation was over when Cam left. Thanks, Cam.
Yeah, the conversation. I don't know what we do now. Did we just talk about stuff?
I don't know. Baron stuff.
Bear stuff. It's good, I guess, because it helps people.
Sorry, as soon as Cam's back now. But,
Now Cam's back.
You guys like how I just bail out
don't-
on
yeah,
that
that's
shit?
Just don't repeat any of this.
What did, oh, you guys, okay.
Nothing happened.
Oh.
Nothing happens.
We'll have to listen to that one.
What do you, why do you think people?
Is this what you guys are talking about, or you're switching?
This is switching. Well, it kind of goes off what we were just talking about. Well, why do you think people, like you said, with all that wealth, it's not bad to, and that's my opinion, it's not bad to want wealth and money, and a lot of people.
Well,
have,
it kind of scares me a little bit. That
But why do you think
there are people out there who are literally trying to limit how much wealth you can accrue? Like that's just not. And look, like I'm not a money guy, and what I mean by that is like I'm not doing what I'm doing all for the money.
Right.
Because like clearly not. Because I mean.
That was the case. You've been gone a long time ago.
Yeah, but.
I'm about to go hacky as fuck on y'all. Continue.
But I don't like the.
I'm gonna tear this shit up.
I just don't like the idea of somebody trying to limit your success and
I'm
like
just
trying to tell you, it's like, well, no, it's too much. Like you just need.
That's
to
what
stop.
I'm saying. Why do you think people?
Because you're gonna pigeonhole people. It's
Well,
like
why do you
people
think
are only gonna be
people-
so much.
There's, and I'm not going to name any names, and I hope this person doesn't listen to this podcast.
I'm gonna pull a loop-de-loop on what he's just said, but I'm gonna.
But I got in a debate with this person a long time ago.
I hope they do listen. Whoever you are, fuck you.
No, not at all. Because it's honestly, it's helped me a lot. But we were driving down the road, and we were driving by this house, and still to this day I drive by this house, and it's the most beautiful house I've ever seen. And I was like, you know what, there it is right there, And again, I'm a very visual.
Is that what you're saying? I'm gonna own that house.
Yeah, like that's
my house.
mine. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to buy that exact house.
But you're a person of manifestation.
Well,
too.
that too, right?
Yeah.
So, and I believe fully, like it's easier for me to say I'm going to buy that house or that car or this thing. It's not necessarily that's my sole purpose, but those things are the things that I want. I have a very expensive taste.
Yeah.
Just all this other stuff. Well, she was like, well, I didn't mean to say she, but this person was like.
You've been outed.
This person was like, well, you don't need all that. And I was like, no, I don't need all that. Like, I need food, I need water, and love. That's pretty, and I'm pretty religious. And I was like, well, God wants us to have everything that, everything our heart desires.
I think you're spiritual.
Right.
I would not count you as a religious individual.
Spiritual.
I think you're very spiritually driven person.
I love the Lord.
Yeah.
But I was like, God wants us to have everything our heart desires. And as long as I have good in my heart, like
your intention.
For if I got $100 million in the bank or $100 in the bank, if I got $10 in the bank and you came to me and said, "Dude, I need $10," I would 150%. I wouldn't even question why you needed it, even if it was cocaine, whatever. If you get, by the way, just a disclaimer: if you get cocaine for $10, you better get me.
I was gonna say, like,
when you're bargain shopping, you often call friends and go, "Hey, they got Cheetos 10 for $10.
Right.
Do you need
Right.
one?"
That's not on just the positive stuff.
Yeah. No.
But anyway, that's just my sole purpose is, like, I'd give you the shirt off my back. No questions asked.
Sure.
Whether if I had 100 million or literally 100 pennies, it doesn't matter. And I was like, God wants you to have everything your heart desires. And this person was like, yeah, but having that stuff is not what he wants for you. And I was like, first of all, it's not your, like, that's not your judgment. That's up to, my path. That's me, And I felt some type of way about it, and I still let that, I let it bother me some because they always say money's the root of all evil and all this stuff, and I believe...
It's not money that's the root of all, it's the love of money.
It's the love of money, right.
Of
and it's like, I don't love money, and I don't love Lamborghinis like I love my brother and my friends and my family, and the feeling I get when someone comes to me and is like, dude, you kept me from killing myself. Like, those are the things that I want to do.
So stuff that matters.
Right. Yeah. But if I could do that and have a Lambo and a dope house, like, sure. I'm not going to not, And I felt really, really judged by that, and I was wondering what your... And I've never asked... I don't think I've ever asked you that, but I know I've asked you a couple times, like, me pointing at Tylor for those who can't see. I know I've asked you a couple of times, like, is it bad for me that I want a Lambo? Like, is it bad for me that I want to go live in a high-rise in downtown Nashville? Like, is it bad for me to have those thoughts, which now, obviously, I don't, but I've always been curious.
Well, let's do this. Double-click that camera real quick, and then I'm going to jump into it, and then I'll see what you guys... All right. First things, yeah, it gets a little warm in here without that thing being on. But like an idiot, I made the entire last podcast. That fan was blowing on like 3, which is the highest level, and all you heard in the background was.
Have you ever seen Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls? When he comes out of the rhino.
Oh, he's in the rhino. He's awesome.
That's what it feels like.
All right. So first things first. One of the biggest reasons that I walked away from organized religion. And the reason I say
crime.
No.
I was like, what the? Where did this podcast go?
No. And the reason I say that I don't see you as a religious person, I see you as a spiritual person. People have used religion for years to manipulate the way people act, the way that they think, the way that they should live their lives, right? And that's always been something I highly disagree with. People have always said, well, your drive for money is gluttonous and it's greedy and it's all these things.
But to be fair, people use both sides of the coin.
Sure. Oh yeah, all the time.
100%.
What to me, the thing that aggravated me the most when I got to a place in life where I had actually lived, I've learned lessons, I've gone through it, and I was I was a religious person for a good portion of my life. I noticed that I saw a bunch of unhappy people coming to the altar, bending at the knee, raising their hands, going, God, pull me out of this. Pull me out of this. Jesus, take the wheel. Help me. Now, there's a point of that, but it stopped there. When you leave church on Sunday, when you sit around and go, well, God's got this. God's got this in control. You don't need that mansion. You need whatever. You just need to be able to provide for your family. Right. It's the headspace that you operate in that makes or breaks you. When you look at things like, let me focus on one point. In the aspect of loving money, should you love money? Yes. I think, yes. Because my love of money is only because I want to provide for the people on the other side of this wall, my family. Right. So I love that tool that allows me to give my family an amazing life. Now,
I just don't like greenbacks. I prefer like hard money.
Sure, I'm a debit card person myself. If you want the old Washingtons or Benjamin, who's on the 100?
Benjamin Franklin.
That's how you know I don't have any fucking money, people. Yeah. But to me,
who's on the 100?
What gets to me, and I've seen people do it my whole life.
Joe Walsh.
They go.
He's on the 100.
I don't think Benjamin Franklin. What are we talking about? No. He turns around. These people go, you shouldn't chase after this. You shouldn't do this. Well, how I look at it is, you shouldn't try to put me in the box that you live your life in. What changed for me was when I realized I had to think unconventionally. If I'm thinking the way other people are thinking, I'm losing. Because then I'm living in the parameters of what they think is possible. Right. And what I thought was possible for the longest time was, if you're chasing money, then you're ultimately going to fail because you're chasing the wrong thing. That's not the case. When you are willing to put in the work to, like you said, do the things that it takes to become financially successful, but you're doing them with the intention of, I want to genuinely help other people. Right. I'm not doing this for the Lambo, right. But when I can buy myself a Lambo, that means I can also turn around and pay the mortgage off on a single mother's house back in Columbus, Ohio. Right. I can take care of a father's back child support when I can afford a Lambo. Right. So you telling me that I shouldn't chase my Lambo, you're also telling me I shouldn't chase paying off the mortgage of a single mother's house.
To an extent, yeah. It's not necessarily...
But that's what they're saying, because in their mind, in that box that they live in, that Lambo is only a material aspect. Right. That Lambo is not also a representation of how hard you worked. You got kicked in your balls.
Yeah, most people,
a million times. So by you telling me you don't need that mansion, you're also telling me that I don't need to help people. Right. Because my aspirations are the same. It doesn't... And also,
whether if I have a mansion or a...
There's also people who think that if I make $1 million, that I took $100,000 from you. That's not the case. There's enough out there that if you are willing to put the work in, but people don't even understand the fact that you have to have the self-assessment ability to look at yourself and go, I'm not willing to do what it takes to own a house on a hill.
And that's why
people don't fucking like it.
Right.
Well, it's like, you know, kind of jumping off from what you said. You know, I have paying patrons on my Patreon, and it's like those folks pay me money because they like what I do.
Yep.
I didn't hold a gun to their head and say, give me money. So, yeah, their whole the logic behind it, you know, well, you stole money from them, you know, to make your dreams. It's like, I didn't steal nothing.
I think what it is people, like you said, and it goes off of what we're talking about, like, people live in, like, this box. And, like, I've heard an amazing story from Tom Bilyeu's podcast. People don't believe in magic. Either you do believe in magic or you don't believe in magic. And the story was, as a magician, Tom he's obsessed with, like, he loves magic. And the reason is he loves the work that goes behind learning magic. Like, there's a whole nother, it's amazing.
Which is the Gary Vee story. You have to love the process before you want to be successful.
So, with people living in this box, people just choose to believe that there's no way that's possible, or, oh my gosh, it's just magic. But what people like us that think outside the box is you don't think of them countless and countless and countless hours of just all of the work and the failure.
Setting your sleeves on fire.
The story that he was telling was the basketball one, where you go through pick a card in a deck, and there's 3 basketballs, and there's a statistic that goes behind this that most people pick these top 5 cards, and these 3 basketballs is going to be one of these cards, and then, oh my gosh, you go over there, you take open this basketball, and there's your card. Most people are like, that's not real, that can't happen. Most people are like, oh my gosh, it's magic. People outside the box are like, holy shit. Most people don't believe that he went to Spalding, the basketball manufacturer, and said, look, I need you to manufacture me 3 balls with these cards in these balls, and I'm going to go and do this and do all this work, because nobody fully believes that, like, wow, no one would ever put in that much work.
Yeah, that
so
you created the reality that people are
so
seeing.
It's the same thing. Like, when you see me driving through a small town in a Lamborghini, it's like, there's no way anyone can work that hard to have a Lamborghini. And
well, they would immediately, and let's be real, you just turned 26, right?
We'll turn 26.
We'll be 26 in July.
You'll be 26 in July. If someone saw you riding around in a Lambo, first thought would be, your dad bought you that.
Money.
Your dad bought you that.
My dad don't have that.
Which to me is my favorite.
Oh, I love it.
When I watch people, and I see it all the time, I have people who fucking hate me on the internet. They fucking hate me on the internet. When I got
here I am, right here.
When I got sponsors on this show, people were like, "This is fucking bullshit. This is a front. This is this. This is that." That's good for me. Because you're now living in a space of what's possible for you, which only makes me focusing on what I'm doing that much more real. Because I see, 2 years ago, if I looked at getting a sponsor on a podcast, I'd go, wow, that's crazy. You probably have to have a talent agent who then reaches out to a PR person who now would do. No, you email the CEO
that's what I'm saying.
of the company.
Most people that have that thought process, wow, you probably have to have a talent agent, then you have to do this, then you have to do this.
I gotta buy a microphone.
You're instantly like, oh, it's not possible.
I have to have an audio engineer. Like,
you're like, well, and it's the same thought process that I go through. Is like, I mean, the most Nike, you know, like, they obviously did not start as a $1 billion company. No one starts as a $1 billion company.
Not unless you've got $1 billion.
Well, so they had to start somewhere. So I'm going to start printing on shirts until I definitely find it and bump into something that comes up similar to Nike.
What changes the game is when you print that first batch of shirt and nobody fucking buys it, and then you still hustle your ass off for another 2 years to be able to afford one more shirt launch.
Speaking in your language, it's a lot like your first fight. You know, most people, and I say this often, and I've never boxed before, never done jiu-jitsu, nothing, but I equate it a lot to getting punched in the mouth. If you've never been punched in the mouth physically, like someone's fist to your mouth, you never really know, but figuratively speaking, your brain registers 2 thoughts. When you get hit, you're either like, oh shit, that hurt, I need to kind of like flee, or you're like, okay, this guy better hit harder on the next one because I'm coming for his throat. So that's the types of people that are in this realm. And again, there's been successful people that get hit in the mouth and flip the script and go around whatever hit them, or you got dummies like me that get constantly punched in the mouth, and I'm just like, that's fine, I got an iron jaw.
Well, perfect analogy for that. Perfect analogy. I did not train MMA for the first 26 years of my life because I was so fucking afraid of getting hit in my face.
Really?
Yeah, I have been an MP. I've wrestled.
I was gonna say, you shot.
I was a dickhead in school. Like, I've been punched in my face more times. I was a bodyguard for a few companies. I did security at some of the most heard-about bars in the world. Like, me getting punched in my face is not something I enjoy. I know what it feels like, and it's not fucking fun. When you train MMA or when you see that, you go, God bless, that fucking hurts. Just like when you get sucker punched in a brawl or something like that. Then you have the balls to put gloves on and stand next to someone and go, all right, bitch, let's go. Then, when you get punched in your face, you don't feel it, because your adrenaline's going, you're focusing on all this stuff, and you realize that what your reality was before you stepped in the ring is so much different than just having the balls to get in the ring. So by launching a podcast, which everybody, I hope, if you want to launch a podcast, we did all the things of talking about, yes, it's saturated, yes, there are people that are not made to do it. I'm not the one, I'm not your judge and jury. I'm not the one to tell you that your podcast is shit, because I may not live in the realm you live in. But you should start it. You should be consistent. That's the hard part in podcasting. You should be consistent for at least a year.
Oh, yeah.
If you say, I'm going to upload Monday and Wednesday, you'd better fucking upload Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
For a year, you're gonna have 10, 20, 25 episodes that fucking suck. That are just no good. Because every single day is not perfect. But Gary Vee, your guy that you was just talking about, Tom Bayu, or however you say his name, Bill Yu, they will all tell you that when you fall in love with the process of being consistent, giving people your best, sometimes you're not going to be at your best, but you fucking showed up.
It's almost like you're addicted to getting hit in the mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, to be quite honest with you, what helped me was, again, I go back to the dirt bike thing, like, I enjoyed kind of the same thing, you know, it's just a repeat process, and you eventually fall in love with the, well, I guess I better ride harder, I guess I better crash harder, I guess I better get hurt more, because if I'm doing that, I'm pushing the limits and continuously growing and growing and growing to the point to where you, like, get a breath of fresh air and you're like, wow, I've calloused over my hands and I've gotten used to when the bike does this, I can maneuver this way, and it's the same thing with anything. You can always, I always say flip the script. I don't know why I did that.
Well, the first time you ride a dirt bike, the thing you are most afraid of is to fall on the ground.
Crashing.
You're afraid of that.
I don't know. I've been riding for a long time. It doesn't.
Well, it's still not fun, right? Just like getting punched.
I'm not like, you know what? I really can't wait to.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit this hill and I'm gonna fucking bail midway through. But that's the same thing as fighting. Ideally, I would like to not get punched in my face, but a part of the process. But that's why people ask me all the time, when are you gonna fight? I'm fucking not. I'm 27 years old. I've done enough dumb shit to my body.
Can we do a YouTube fight?
I'll referee you.
No. No, because being very honest, like I said, like, I'm 27 years old. I got kids. I got a family. Like, I need my brain to do this kind of shit. Me getting punched in my face senselessly after all the years of abuse that I've done to my body, I'm riding on short mental springs as we're talking. I don't need to go out there and encourage any more fucking brain loss.
I really, and this is just, I'm a firm believer. I'm an adrenaline junkie, hands down. I kind of want to fight. I want to get in the ring and just...
So again, there's that aspect of people. I would never tell someone, yes, you're a fighter, no, you're not a fighter, because it's about what your intention for it is. I know professional fighters. To be someone who steps in a cage and shuts the door behind you with another human being who's literally trying to kill you, you have to have that thing where you go, I'm either going to win or I'm gonna fucking die in this ring.
But see,
I don't have
that's what I'm saying.
Not for fighting.
I have always been that guy. Like, even I grew up, I mean, the first half of my career, I would say for the majority of my career, I was never in top shape. Like, I always digged around and would drink Cokes or eat candy or, you know, just, I was never in shape. But it as soon as that gate dropped, it was like and Rob Dyrdek says it best, there's a kill mode that's instinctually in people. I have kill mode. Like, it's either I'm going to win or I literally will not be able to breathe, can't hold on, can't do anything until, and that's the same thing with cage fighting. I could go in and train for 3 months, even if I know, if I'm stepping in the ring with Conor McGregor and I'm about to get my ace whooped, I'm going to go in there and he's going to have to eat his lunch and hit real hard.
So, I know what I do is not nearly as dangerous, but there is a certain
Somebody get that kid happy.
There is a certain kill mode-esque kind of adrenaline to it.
Yeah. Well, there is a podcast.
When you're doing something live, especially. When you're out there doing a live show or a play or anything like that.
I just instantly started sweating on the back.
Or you're doing like live tech. In any of those situations, like there's a fine line between efficiency and chaos.
Oh yeah.
And any misstep could throw everything off, and it can end disastrously.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? Literally.
And if something does go wrong, which 9 times out of 10 something will go wrong.
Sure.
Always.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to have enough maneuver time to fix that and get everything back on point. And to me, that is the true mark of a great entertainer. Because to me, there's no such thing as a perfect performance. There is a great performance, and there is a not so great.
It's a champion thing.
But we would see things that happen on stage that a layman in the field would not see.
Exactly.
We would see someone hiccup over a line and bounce back and go, God bless that guy. That's a professional, because it's not the fact that he hiccuped over the line, which
it's the fact that he hiccuped
and came back. But for the person sitting in the audience, if they would have hiccuped on that line, they would have frozen up mentally, and you'd have been standing there shaking like a leaf on stage. But for people who have been in that arena before, you're going, he got hit in his mouth, and he just put his hands back up and kept going. That's very difficult, where in podcasting, it's again, a different form of it, but...
Because that last live show I did...
800 plus people.
At the City Winery, like, I...
Seriously, hands down.
You probably didn't notice, but there was a couple of points where I kind of stumbled over my words a bit.
Oh man, I mean, I think, but again, that's the process of it. Because 10 years from now, when you're one of the top monster podcasts in the world, you can then tell the up and comers, dude, when I stood in front of a stage of 800 people, I literally almost shit my pants and I couldn't feel my tongue in my mouth.
Well, I can't lie, because I wasn't about to.
Well, sure, but I'm saying, but you can tell your truth of it and go, dude, it was hard. It was not easy for me to get up there and do that, but I did it, and then after doing it 100 times, now it's not a big deal when I fumble. I lean into the curve, and I let the audience know that I fumble.
That's a good way of putting it. I always leaning into the curve.
Yeah, and
well, it's the same, like, it's like getting calluses on your hands, man. You eventually rip so many blisters and this and this to where it's almost like you're still ripping blisters, but they've been ripped so many times, it's like, nah, it's fine.
But you know, that chaos, that fine line, and I've never said it out loud, but that's probably the main reason why I love
that's
doing
the
it
adrenaline
so much.
you're chasing.
Because, sure, something can go wrong, but I've been doing this so long that I know what I'm doing to make it right again. And it's really the only... it's the only thing, and that's why I feel so strongly about why I feel like, my calling is what I'm doing now, is because I feel like that's kind of life. But the difference between, like, being a storyteller and being, living in the real world, I can control it.
Yeah.
In the realm of storytelling, and I do, if I don't say so myself, I do a pretty damn good job.
You do a great job of it.
Mediocre, but
well, we just talked about this, and we're gonna add him into this because Tylor and I just talked very recently.
A couple days ago.
We've seen a confidence build in you that I hadn't seen previously. To think of the Taylor Gentry I met, 2 years ago, a year ago. To get up on a stage in front of 800 people, you would have been like, I don't think he would have had an interest in doing that. But you built that confidence that goes, look, I'm Cal Drahoon, and I'm the fucking shit. Fuck with me if you want, but I'm talented as shit.
Well, when you met me, I was going through a really rough time in my life.
Yeah, you were.
I was, and up at that point, I'd been an actor and all that for a long time. So like, I had, the confidence to get up there and perform and all that stuff. But I will say that at that point in my life, I feel like I lost a lot of what I like to call luster. I learned that from SpongeBob.
The desire to.
You know, Barnacle Boy, he was like, wow, seems like a lot of the creatures of the deep lost their luster.
Is that what the luster is? That's your desire to?
Well, I lost a lot of, not the desire to, because I was still doing Count Drahoon.
You just lost the umph.
I lost a little bit of umph. There was a lot more anxiety and fear than that I had. A lot of uncertainty. Because at that point in my life, I was at a dead-end job, a dead-end part-time job, working for the government, and it was a really toxic working environment too. It was really bad because there was essentially like she wasn't my direct supervisor, but she thought she was. She was making my life a living hell, and she was like literally making up lies about me to try to get me into trouble, not to like get me fired, but just so she could have some sort of control. Over me, to kind of hold over my head. So I had that going on in my life. I had applied to numerous jobs just to get out of where I was working, and I got told no. And expenses were going up.
And you were running a podcast.
And I was trying to do a podcast. I was trying to do a podcast, and also there was this girl that I was like deeply infatuated with. And that thing like completely imploded and fell apart right in front of my eyes, and so I was dealing with all of that in that short span of time, and I don't know what it was per se. Well, no, I take that back. There was just something that clicked in the back of my head, going through all of this pain, that I was this low in my life. And I was never going to be back here again.
There's a big part of that.
So I got a new job, and I'm still currently employed at the place that I'm working at, and I love my job because I work for people that value me as an employee, and they have actually given me opportunities to move up, and I've gotten 2 promotions in less than a year.
But that's not because of external circumstances. That's because of the change you made inside. Because for me, what I hear and how I can relate it, which is the way I usually do things, is how can I relate it to what happened to me, is I used to not believe, right? I used to think, yes, I'm going to start a podcast and it's going to be okay. It's going to go okay.
Right. So to kind of hit, and I see what you're. I'm getting to it. I'm really long-winded, so if you need to like cut anything,
nope, send it.
So I got a new job, and just at that point, this mantra in the back of my head, like I'm not going back there. I'm not going back into the abyss. I'm not going back into the dark. I'm pushing forward. I'm gonna get I have a dream, and there were times where I felt like I was literally the only person who believed that I could plausibly make this happen. I had a lot of people I had to prove wrong. Now, Tylor believed in me. I remember that. Well, you kind of did.
That's a part of being in the game, though. There's people who, if you're never in the game, you never go through that.
But I've told this to people a lot. My grandmother, who I love dearly, and we were super close, to the point where she used to call me her heart, like that. That kind of, I'm a grandma's boy. She flat out told me that year, she said, Taylor, you need to stop doing Count Drahoon because it's silly, nobody will ever get it. You just need to quit. I didn't listen to her. I kept going. And that was hard. It's hard because a lot of times, and I've said this a lot, it's usually the people that you love the most that are going to try to stop you. And it's not because they hate you or they're
scared for you.
They're scared. They don't want you to fail. But
they don't want to see you in a gutter drinking out of a brown bag.
Right.
Talking about what should have been, what could have been, what would have,
And so I guess what I'm trying to say, at that point in my life, I just got into this mentality shift. It's like, this is do or die. I either make my dreams come true and say to hell with everybody else that doesn't believe in me, or I die.
That's 1,000% the difference between someone who succeeds and someone who does not.
And that's what I'm trying to get my friends.
1 million.
And that's what I try to get my friends to see. Because it's hard. Because a lot of times, I get accused of being an optimist, and that's not. I am optimistic at times, but that's not really the case. It's like, I have to make this happen.
Right.
This has to work. My entire life, my energy, just like the bane of my existence is solely dependent on the success of the show.
Honestly.
And it's not because of the money that's going to come from it. It's because this is what
and this sounds so crazy, but I fundamentally believe that God put me on this earth to do exactly what I'm doing right now.
And I agree.
And to make it succeed. Because I told Tyler this analogy the other day. I really believe that when in heaven, when God was getting ready to put me on earth, he had actually intended me to be born sometime in the late 19th century, the early 1900s, so that I could have lived through the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and all that. But at the last second, God said, hold on a minute. Let's put him here. Let's make him born in 1993. Let's make him the son of Rhonda and Mike Gentry, brother of Tylor and Drew. And they were like, are you sure you want to do that? Because he's going to be totally out of place. And he said, trust me. I know what I'm doing.
But the world needs that.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm seeing.
The world needs
and even now, like, you know, I have bad days. There are days where I'm just like, dude, nobody gets me. I'm such a weird guy. He says that every day.
Yeah.
Point at you, Tyler. But then I have days where I'm reminded, it's like, you know, as crazy as this world is right now, I think the world could use some of Tylor crazy.
Yeah.
You got people out there kissing feet, man. People get you more than that.
Could you imagine 70 years from now, you're laying on your deathbed and you have every story that you've put to a microphone inside of you never came out? That would be the worst fucking thing I could imagine.
That Ed Milet said that on a podcast. That when you go to heaven, that's the thing you get to wrestle with. You either meet the man you're supposed to be, which is, and I think I said this on the last podcast you and I did with Mike.
I've never done a podcast with Mike. Oh, Mike Nick. Oh, okay.
You when you go to heaven, you meet two people. You meet the man that you
could have been,
and the man that you are. And heaven would be that you meet the man that you are, and it fits exactly perfect. Hell would be the man that you could have been that you never took the chance to go.
And it's a daily struggle. It is, because I even now, like, and granted, I would say in the self-confidence realm, I have made astronomical leaps and bounds to where I was when we first met Cam.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
But it's still a work in progress, because every now and then I still fall into that trope of
it's like I told you on the drive
negativity.
here. You'll never have your shit together.
No, never. And I was just telling my mom that the other day. I said, I realized 2 years ago, the reason that I give my parents the grace that I do from the upbringing I have, I'm a parent.
Right.
And I've fucked up massively with my kids to where I'm going, my parents are me. Yeah. They're people trying to figure the shit out. Yeah. They're just doing the best that they can.
It's
The thing was, the generation before us, they lived in a realm of what everyone thought was possible, right?
Well,
we now don't do that so much. We believe that everything's possible.
Right.
It's a little different.
It's a matter of when you come to grips that you're gonna fail, you're gonna have days that, like, seriously, I mean, days to where it's gonna be low.
Yeah.
But all of that is just a set up for everything you're working for. You know, you're never gonna have it fully together. So once you realize that, like, you know what, all my shit's always gonna be strode around and be all over the house. You still got a house, and it's up to you to make the house as big and as extravagant.
It's never gonna be how it is in the movies.
No,
you're gonna have those days where you're just blissfully happy and nothing wrong ever happens.
But no one wants to see that story. No one wants to see the story of.
That's why we ended at the happy ending.
And also, no one wants to watch the story. Say they make a movie of my life. Nobody now. Again, they may want to see this part, but it's not as cinematically attracting to watch a guy smoking CBD, broke down to his fucking balls financially, with a wife out there supporting him, taking care of a kid with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, who's sitting in here podcasting with the belief that this is going to be what changes the game.
Right.
You post that with every amount of passion you just put through that microphone. You post it. 7 days later, you refresh the stats, and guess what? They fucking suck. There's not many people who have the wherewithal to go, it's a bad season. Got to go back up to bat though.
Yeah.
You know, it's when my time in the batting order comes up, which is for me Sunday night at 7 o'clock. When I record, I got to go back to the fucking plate, or else it's over. The ride is over.
That's wrapping around to the other, like a circle.
It's a circle.
It's a circle.
That
It's
is,
not
like I said.
It's got some point dots.
Oh, I write that one down.
We get the circle. Hey.
Shout out! I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry. Rob Schneider.
But it's I don't even forgot what I was gonna say.
We were talking about again. It's
where champions are made. That's what I was gonna say. That to me,
being able to get punched in your fucking mouth and get back up.
That's the quote unquote of a champion.
Especially in the realm that we all live in, without the people who support us, we're dick. We're nothing. If nobody supports, nobody listens,
absolutely,
we're fucked.
Yeah.
And not only does my success and your success and your success, but the two people that are sitting out there, their lives depend on it. So and that was a big fundamental change for me, like what you were saying. When because I've had a wife who told me, dude, you're not shit, you're never gonna be shit. When I got a wife that goes, dude, you're the shit. Get your fucking ass in there and podcast and save this fucking family, because we're riding with that.
It's like Superman.
Yeah, and you feel that.
Yeah.
When you get in here and you press the wow, you fucking pull it open like, dude, I'm the shit. You're like, I'm the
Absolutely.
And that's why I rock with ambition, because but again, so tell people what the three.
So it's hard work, faith, persistence.
Because I fuck it up every time.
Yes, it's hard work, faith. A lot of people do.
I always say hard work, faith, and perseverance, which is essentially the kind of the similar.
But yeah, hard work, faith, persistence. It's 3 keys to success. It's again.
You cannot succeed without those 3 things.
In my opinion, you can't.
You cannot.
You cannot go through without faith. Faith not being just spiritually, but it's faith in yourself, faith in the process, literally faith in all aspects. Hard work, you're never going to go anywhere without getting your knuckles bled, bloody, feet and hands dirty, all that stuff. You got to just the world famous grind it out. Like that's just hard work in anything, and that's staying up when people are going to parties, and you're in the studio recording your podcasts or writing your stories or building your brands and things like that. Hard work it's inevitable in order to be successful. And then persistence, not perseverance. You messed me up.
See, that's why I mess it up.
Persistence is exactly what I mean. Persistence. It's the not relentless pursuit of no's and failures and failure.
But you cannot have that persistence without the faith.
Without the hard work.
You can't.
That's why it's like a circle.
It's like a circle, even though it's got the point.
It is.
It's got the point.
But no, it's just. It took me a while to realize that those 3 things are just so embedded in life. But yeah, once you realize that without those 3 things, and a 4th thing, if I had to add to it, is just to have some fun, man. Like this stuff like this.
So it's a quadrilateral.
It's a quadrilateral, but it's a triangle. If that makes any sense.
But it's really a quadrilateral.
Well, let me ask you this, and I want us all to answer this. What was the point in your life that if you had to put a bookmark in that point, for you went to, God, man, I hope this fucking works out, to, oh shit, this is gonna work out. This is what I do now forever. When was that point for you that goes, whether it blows or not, this is just what I do now?
Are you talking about like that mindset change?
Yes,
or just,
yeah.
I think I would have to say that process probably is a window of time between October 2017 and July 2018.
Pretty
Okay. Pretty recent.
Because...
And what caused the shift?
Well, it was just those changes I was talking about in my life. Just going from just absolute zero, like, what the hell am I doing with my life, to basically the evening of July 12, 2018, it's like, and I said, this is our first live show. This is going to either take me to the next level, or I'm going to go back to zero. Fuck it, let's do it.
Were you cool with going back to zero if that's what it took?
I think so.
To restart?
I do, because it's like, if I go back to zero, I'm just going to go,
I've been there before.
I'm gonna scratch and claw and get my way back.
Yeah. I've been there, so I know what it takes to get.
So fortunately for me, July 13th, 2018 was the best birthday ever, because I didn't go back to zero. I climbed along on the... I launched. Yeah. It was a huge... Yeah, the live shows were huge for for the podcast. Like
This is
my
my
audience grew.
Oh yeah, that was
Tremendously.
a complete pivotal moment.
I think I know what yours is, but what was yours?
March 16th, 2016 or 17. Sorry, was it 16? No, 2013. I'm sorry.
You ought to know this.
I don't know why I said 16, 17. Maybe I just March 16th, 2013.
The death of your friend.
Absolutely.
I would say that was. I mean, that was a pivotal moment. For
That
both
was
of
the
us.
same.
But the thing is, for me, I think for the most part, I was kind of in a dark cloud from that point
to then.
to then. I really was. But then, like, I'm starting to come out of the wilderness now.
Right.
I feel like. But I feel like for those years, like through college, all that time, I was really over, and it was kind of blocking my minutia a little bit.
I can tell you that day was like I thought I was at rock bottom, and then that day hit, and then that was.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
anybody can go through quote unquote rock bottom, but like I was in a relationship.
Everybody's rock bottom.
I was there, was training for dirt bikes. I was working a factory job at the time, and I knew, and it's crazy that my best friend at the time was working a factory job as well. And I remember vividly weeks before of like, dude, we can't keep doing, like, we've got to, and he was a motocross racer as well.
Sucks.
I was like, man, like, I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. And that guy saved every dollar he ever made. He never spent. I'd never seen him buy one thing, which was weird. But I was like, man, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I'm making killer money. I'm killing it at my job, and I hate it. And like,
I don't think he actually said killing it though.
I didn't, not then. But like, I was doing really well in the job, and like, I had just quit school. Obviously, my military father loved the fact that I quit school. So I was working my ass off.
That's sarcasm, by the way.
Yeah, that's
I was seriously condemned. Like, every day I woke up, he was like, "You go back to sleep."
What are you doing, you piece of shit?
So like, I was like,
How dare you
I
see
was seriously
sunlight?
the spawn of Satan. And when I quit school, I had no direction. I was, hanging out with my girlfriend at the time, and we were just, and honestly, to this day, I could ask her, and as much as hopefully she doesn't hate my guts, but as much as she does, she would say the same thing. Like, I was just dreaming of like, man, dirt bikes is the way to go. Dirt bikes is gonna change my life. Like, I'm gonna work my ass off to be a motocross racer. Lost my best friend, and literally, like, bam, that day I was like, I seriously have nothing to live for. Like, I might as well just join him and roll on. And seriously, a week later, with all the dreams and all the talking and talking to the Lord, talking to Casey, all that stuff, it literally just flipped the script. To answer your question, I never once, after that moment, once I just like strapped up my straps and just said, let's fucking go, I never once said this will never work. Never once have I ever said anything I do from this moment on, I hope it works, because I know it works.
You were also willing to be flexible in the process, because where your dream then was to be a world champion motocross rider, you've now taken that same mentality towards
business. But again, how I know, to go off of what Taylor says, is how I know I was made for what I'm doing at this moment. My brand is in motocross.
Yeah.
So motocross is making me what I am today.
Yeah.
So I never once, never in my entire life, I woke up every day, and still, I have my days to where I'm low, but still, you could ask me, are you going to be where you said you're going to be? And not a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And if it's not the triangle and the clothes that take me there, there's going to be something to where when I hit a wall, I'm just going to make a door, open the door, walk through it, and make another door, make another door, because I'm a firm believer in every failure, again, goes back to motocross. It's not losing, it's learning. When you get second place, you don't sit and dwell on, holy shit, I lost, I'll kill that guy next time I see him. It's more or less like, how did I lose? Why did I lose? And let's figure it out.
You learn how to turn harder into the turn that took you down.
When you go next time, it's like, oh, well, that bump was getting me. Let's just go around the bump.
It's like
or jump over it.
It's like what Thomas Edison said. I didn't
learn to make a.
I didn't fail. I just learned 1,999 ways how not to make a light bulb.
How not to make a light bulb.
And that was the same way with, because during that time period, I was more or less kind of doing the same thing, just kind of taking it from a different tact. I had my own online network. Basically, the idea was it was going to be a multimedia network.
Camcorder TV.
Yeah, Camcorder TV. We were going to make podcasts, web shows, I think the idea itself was great.
It was a media agency.
But the problem is that we did not have enough resources to... I'm just saying, like, we just kind of hit the ground running with it, which is good. It's admirable.
You learn lessons.
But, right, and, well, the biggest lesson in that entire period of time was how not to do it.
Yeah, but you need that.
Yeah, you did need that. But and I'll tell you what I would have done differently. What I would have done differently, I would have taken a lot more time to flesh everything out, because that's all me and my business partner at the time had. We had time. Like, nobody was looking for camcorder TV at the time. Like, we didn't have a deadline.
It's nice when there's no expectation.
Right, we didn't have any expectations. We could have really taken our time, really, and what I would have done first was probably just do one show at first, like a podcast, a web show, something, and then made that the absolute best that it could be, and then let that take off, and then once Camcorder TV and that show was established, then we branched off to do all the other things that we wanted. But we did everything all at once, and I think that was the problem. But you know, it taught me a lot about myself.
Sure. Yeah,
because what it taught me was that I'm insane, because I have a ungodly amount of patience and perseverance, because even though things were not looking up, even though things, you know, we weren't getting the results that we wanted to, I was more than determined to stay the course.
I think most successful term I use lightly, because everybody's successful definition is different. I think most people that have impact in the world are absolutely
there is a bit of mania.
Insane.
There is.
But insane.
You can't tell me
who?
People that don't get it.
Because again, to the three of us sitting in this room, I don't think anybody here is insane. You're just you have what it takes to be that.
That's bullcrap. You guys are absolutely batshit crazy.
No,
that's fine.
I myself, when I look in the mirror, I'm like,
I think I'm crazy.
I look at myself in the mirror,
when I
I'm
look
like,
at you two, I'm like, you're just doing what it takes. That's what it takes to do this.
I'm not just saying.
So yes, we're all crazy.
I'm not just saying that. Like, I mean, there are. I call it mania. Because in an artistic mind, like, there are certain.
Well, look at didn't Van Gogh cut his ear off because he was crazy?
Yeah.
He cut his ear off. I don't know why he did that.
I don't remember.
He thought that by doing that, it would add a shock factor to him that would make him famous.
That's what I'm saying.
And he was willing to do that to...
There's some...
there
was something... But there is a bit of... Most creative people have a deeper sense of empathy.
Right.
But if you look, most creative people are very fucking damaged.
Well, that's what I mean.
There's damage.
There's damage.
There's some wires that have been cut off and burnt that just. But I don't know if it's coming.
But that mania that I'm talking about, that like really deep seated emotionality that I have, it's a curse, because I've like when I meet somebody, like if I become infatuated with somebody. I get, and Tyler will tell you, like, I get super attached to them.
That's how I am. Same way.
Well, I'm that way too. Yeah. And it drives me up the wall, because a lot of people aren't really like that.
Yeah. What people say is like, I never end up back in a jail cell or broke as fuck or you know whatever. You're not gonna outwork me. I know that. Also, I had to stop telling myself that I was a fucking moron and that I was useless and that I was a piece of shit because I had done X, Y, and Z 2 years ago. I had to start going, yeah, you did those. Right. Get the fuck over it. Stop reminding people of the dumb shit you did.
The think and grow rich mentality is a man thinketh, so he be.
Manifestation.
It's the same thing, which is why I recommended that book. And you knew, like, you know how I am. You know how I am as far as manifestation, and so do you. Like, manifestation, like, I get to the point of like manifesting, like,
you said parking spots,
like crazy stuff. Like, I'm insane, but like, a man thinketh, so he be. It's the same thing. You could think all day long positive, but again, I preach this to very close people in my life. If you do the same thing with negative, it's like, if you say it's going to rain, it might not rain tomorrow, but 3 days later when it's thunderstorming, don't come to me and say, or don't come to that person who you go to and say, well, I told you this. It's because you manifested that.
But you know what's funny about the headspace change? The people that go, God damn, I got a photo shoot tomorrow. I bet it's going to motherfucking rain on it. The difference between those people and us is instead of going, God bless me, it's gonna fucking rain and it's gonna mess my photo shoot up, you bring a fucking rain jacket and you shoot under a bridge. You adapt around the situation, and then that photo shoot becomes one of the most successful that you ever fucking had.
Most of the time, yeah, it happens that way.
It's the same as having. I sent you the post notes. We haven't talked about one of them.
Not one.
And this podcast is way better than if we would have gone off the fucking.
I don't even
notes that
know
I
what
wrote.
they were.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
wrote down a couple fucking ideas, but again,
Nobody sent me any post-its.
I send people the show notes.
No one cares about you.
And
I'm
we
just kidding.
very, very rarely use them because the natural talk is so
It's
much
always,
better.
it's,
Yeah.
Well, it's more impactful too. You know, it's. What were we gonna talk about?
Let's see.
Let's get into the let's finally get into the podcast.
Now that we've been talking
This is the
for
pre-show.
God knows how long, let's see.
Is that thing recording? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is. Okay.
That's why
I
it
know
says
it's
recording.
well.
in
I know
big
it
red.
says, but there's no time moving.
No, so that's because I learned that when you I did the ads first, so people heard about 5 minutes worth of ads before we started talking, and then the music plays, the intro music. And then it went in. So
God.
when you clip 2 points, at least on Adobe Premiere Pro, when you put 2 clips in, that time is showing the end of the song. And then it doesn't show you your active call time. So once I hit stop, it'll then show us how long we've been
Revamp
talking.
it. Got it.
So let's see. I don't even know where the fuck I put them.
Yeah, that's in.
People who will post workout content for years, looking no different, feeling no different, trying to motivate. That was a pet peeve I was having at the time. People who do backdoor sales was a pet peeve I had. The show notes are really just things that aggravate me throughout the week, which is why I'm glad we didn't talk about most
Sounds
of
like
them.
that's a life happening to you.
The other,
the other grind you give.
well, the other part was, does everyone deserve a road to redemption? Does every person?
I like that one. That was the one I was
with the Jussie Smollett thing.
What was that? I listened to that, but what
you
was
got
it
the
again?
Bill Cosby. You got all this stuff that happens. My question was, like Jussie Smollett? Let's talk about him because Bill Cosby's that's shit is heavy. Jussie Smollett is an actor. He's a African American gay man who is an actor on the show Empire, one of the biggest shows in the world right now.
Got it.
He faked a hate crime. He said that he got his ass beat by 2 white men wearing MAGA hats. Said he got his ass beat. They called him the N-word. They called him gay stuff. All this stuff. It was fake. Complete bullshit. He hired 2 big black dudes to kind of beat his ass enough to where he had some marks, but not enough where it actually fucking hurt him. And his goal was to ensue that this hate crime, this victim, he was a victim.
Right.
So that way when he went for salary talks, they would pay him more because now he's this polarizing figure kind of, because he had gone through so much.
First of all, sorry to interrupt, but that's the love of money versus the love of
It's not
true
even that.
attention.
That is the pure desperation of someone who's not willing to put the work in
That's what I'm
to
saying.
make their life what it needs to be
That's
to
what I'm
have
saying.
that
That's
sort of
like
success.
what made him a better person, or
Nothing.
what made people around him look at him and go, yeah, man, no.
But you know what else didn't happen? I guarantee the 2 guys, he probably promised them money, whatever. He never told that plan to enough people for someone to go, hey, that's fucking stupid.
Right.
That's not something you should do.
He's got enough people in his group that are just like, man, whatever floats. That's the same thing with like the R. Kelly thing. Like, you know how many people that were like.
But now look at them.
Well,
now that the money dried up,
no, but
everybody's
well,
rolling.
no, yeah, but like at the time, like he was doing so much wrong. The people in his circle were like turning a blind eye almost, and was like,
well, they're getting paid.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You
like,
tell on him, now your money goes away.
That's beside the point. Your question was, does everyone deserve?
So Jussie Smollett, he did almost one of the worst things you could do. You tried to incite hate, and in a time where that is already prevalent against racism, political bias, you tried to use that emotional overreaction as a tool to further yourself.
So
do you believe that he himself, we don't know what's going to happen to him, I'm guessing he's going to spend some time behind bars. That's my guess. The Chicago PD, they really did not care for that kind of shit. Because they have enough problems to deal with.
Right.
Do you think he deserves to be at the platform he was again?
So I'll go at it 2 ways. Religiously speaking, we're all forgiven in the end.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Yeah.
My other answer is absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I've nowhere near created, like, I've never done something deliberately to create hate, but like think about the things that you've gone through.
I have.
You know what I mean? Like, think about the things that you've gone through in your life. You essentially, this is your forgiveness.
I've said things and done things so that somebody didn't like somebody else.
Right.
I've
So
done that.
that's what I'm saying. Like, this is your forgiveness. You have an audience now that actually like values what you say. Like, to me, that's your. Really
I'm telling that story, just like Liam Neeson told his story when he told the story of, obviously he was gonna kill some black guy.
Yeah,
he saw.
yeah.
He's saying, I'm so disgusted by this. Now again, Jussie Smollett, it was on a bigger scale. He really.
But that's what I'm saying. Most people, like, even you go as far as like serial killers. Like, do they deserve a second chance? Everybody deserves a second chance, man. You can turn around. I've never believed. Well, I've never believed that. Like, people say people don't change. I've never believed that because. And Taylor can vouch for this. The person I was 10 years ago to the person I am now, literally a night and day. Yeah. Like, you could...
Like, I like this guy.
Like,
10 years ago?
10 years ago? Yeah. 10 years ago, I would have punched me in the mouth.
And you guys talked about that in the first
one. So everybody, I believe, deserves a second chance because everybody can change. It's the want of change. Like you are the... Alcoholism is the number one, like... It's the hardest thing to quit. It's the same thing with drug addicts or anything else. Like, it's the hardest thing to quit. But, like, it's not necessarily... Nothing is hard to quit. It's the want to quit is the thing that gets people. So...
To me, it's the evaluation of the person. Say Jussie Smollett goes and he does 3 years in prison, right? Just say. If he goes into prison and comes out the same or worse, and he was the coolest guy in prison, okay. I've given you an opportunity to come out
I'm saying.
And now create a podcast and a YouTube channel similar to the Road to Redemption where you're going, look, man, I fucked up.
Well, look at...
you do that?
Jordan Belfort. Perfect example. Yeah. He banged a lot of people. Like, he got money from people, like, stole from people pretty much.
Fire Festival.
Fire Festival is a perfect
example. Now, that guy is legally never allowed to be a part of a corporation or anything again, but
he'll. I'm telling you right now, the mindset that guy's got, he's gonna come out with something else.
Yeah,
but that's the thing, you get another chance. Like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Whatever. Like that guy's gonna get another chance. That Fire Festival thing, by the way, like off topic, that's nuts, man. Have you seen that yet?
I know of it.
Crazy.
Man, like literally that dude.
I know like all of my crushes.
Just
like,
a
subpoenaed.
Man.
All the Hadid women.
Oh, dude.
Full on scam artist.
I mean, that guy literally butt raped people. Literally.
But I think he started it with the actual intention that he was going to accomplish the thing he said he was going to do. When it went off the rails, he wasn't willing to let it go.
So there's two ways to look at that one. Like, with his first company, Magnesis, like
which was the credit card.
Yeah, the credit card. It was a scam.
It's complete.
Yeah. So you question the guy's... You question his
I think his intention was to use that money to actually make Fire Festival what it was supposed to be.
I think his intentions were,
or to be rich.
Well, yeah, that. But, like, looking at it from the insane marketing whatever I am, like, oh, man. And the app that thing, like, the app that they were trying to create, literal genius. Like, that's Zuckerberg status.
Brilliant.
You'll never... Those people are a dime a dozen to me. But you question his mentality because, like, oh, gosh, like, you're, especially 2-3 weeks out, he was not producing anything. And at that point, it's like, okay, we're going to just send all this money back, which at that point he couldn't because you're spending it all on parties and influencers and stuff. But
when you got a dude willing to suck dick for water, you should pull the ripcord. Let's just say that.
Although back to me being insane, me and my old lady were watching this video and watching this movie, and I was like, that's the type of people I want working for, man.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, like, listen, I do, like, if Mike came to me and was like, this is what we're going to do, I mean, obviously I wouldn't suck dick for water, but, like, I'd be like, listen, like, I do a lot of stuff.
You would hope there would be somebody on the team.
I mean, that's the kind of people you want working for you.
Now, again, for me, if I've gotten to that place where that's where we are, as the leader, I'm going to go, look, man, you're not doing it.
As a leader,
we're going to figure something out.
No, as a leader, it would never get to that point if I am. But, like, it's just...
But to me, the Jussie Smollett and the Fire Festival guy, they're similar because they saw what worked. They saw that hate, outrage culture would explode a platform to or a person to such a place of notoriety where he goes, I can leverage that.
Well, think about...
Same thing the Fire Festival guy did with social media.
Well, yeah, think about... I mean, take away all the money that was needed to actually fund that festival. That's a dream. Like, to go to a music festival with the top artists in the country at the time in the Bahamas in a private villa.
Yeah.
Like, heck yeah,
Side of the
man,
woods.
that's genius.
The height of
like,
luxury.
Like, of course I will spend 4 days.
And then you bring the biggest influencers on social media.
And then you get to
there.
meet them. Like, of course
And
I would pay
network with them.
$50K.
Yeah.
If I've got $50K, I'm
you
paying
got it.
$50K to go. Like, he was selling tickets for $250,000. Like, oh, it was
And how
insane.
he still ran out of money with no shit on that island.
Yeah, that-
just
I don't-
runs. I don't get that.
But, like, of course, and that's the thing, he wanted to be known as the guy that created that. Who would not, on paper,
Sure.
write that down, and at the end of that paper it says, this was all created by Cam Williamson, you would be like, absolutely.
It's the same thing
150.
Diddy did, but Diddy's worked.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. It's the same thing, like, Coachella, I had read, and it said in that thing, but, like, Coachella started out as, like, a shit show.
Yeah.
Like, it started out as people sleeping on the ground, and now Coachella's one of the most
The
luxurious.
difference was at Coachella, you knew in the beginning you were going to sleep on the fucking ground.
Right, and
where
that-
at Fire Festival,
It was
you
not,
didn't.
yeah.
If he advertised it as, hey, you're going to sleep on a tent, or in a tent on the beach, but next to Kylie Jenner, people would fucking show up for that.
But Kylie Jenner's not showing up. For that.
Kylie Jenner's not going to sleep on the beach. I mean, or her tent is going to be much bigger than
Yeah,
yours. Let's
like,
just
it's going to be
real.
your tent plus 15 other tents.
But the point is, if say tomorrow my podcast was Joe Rogan status, I have it in me that the day after I go back to drinking and I fuck my whole life away.
Absolutely.
That's a real possibility for me. So then I become the Fire Festival, the
Yeah.
Jussie Smollett, where people are going, God, man, what happened to this guy?
I mean, I don't know about, like, you going
Right,
to that status.
right.
You're not going to go to jail
But
for it.
I'm saying, yeah, I could go to jail.
Well, you
Been to
could,
jail
but I'm
3 times
saying,
for
like,
it.
that's not... you turning back to alcoholism
If I went
doesn't
back to
hurt
that,
anyone.
got in a car accident and killed someone, they'd be like, God, man, this dude fucking
That
fell off.
sucks,
He knew
yeah.
better. His life is ruined.
Right.
You know, he fucking knew better. So for me, coming from that place, I go, okay, look, these guys really fucked up.
Yeah.
Really fucked up. But if you come out after whatever,
Oh,
because
yeah.
the
Jussie
hard part
Smollett
is,
was like,
you got to pay those dues, though.
yeah.
You got to go. I've been 2 years in the justice system.
Yeah. Or whatever.
Toxalox and shit in my car. You know, broke as fuck. You have to find a place where you go, look, I owe a
Yeah.
debt to society
Yeah, yeah.
where this stuff is not life happening to me.
Yeah.
I created this.
Like,
I'm responsible for this.
It's one thing for him to come out and say, oh, it was just a hoax, blah, 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 and not really mean it. And
So if
it's
it
another-
takes 10 years for Jussie Smollett to ever get an acting job again, then guess what? That happens. You gotta
That's
step
weird.
out.
You just said that. No. That's weird.
That's the thing. You have to be able to go, I earned this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
earned what's
Yeah.
happening to
And,
me.
you know, like, but to go back to your question, I personally believe, and Taylor can touch on it if he'd like, but yeah, everybody deserves it.
I mean, I followed what was going on with Smollett. Fire Festival, I'm hearing bits and pieces, you know, here and there. Like, I kind of heard a little bit about it, but I didn't look
Gosh,
too
it
much
was
into
insane, man.
It was-
But the Smollett thing, like, I remember hearing about it when it first happened. It's like, oh God, like, you know, that really sucks. But
Yeah.
then, like, the more that it unraveled, I'm like, surely to God, this guy didn't do that.
You
Like, of
really
all
wanted
the
to
times
not
in
say
the
it.
world.
You know what's funny?
I-
I just realized this talking to you.
Mhm.
That mindset that you just said that with is the same mindset that we talked about earlier about people thinking in that box. Like, surely to God he didn't work that hard. But it's like,
and
man, he did, didn't
I
he?
feel-
Wow.
well, here's the thing, like, I feel so stupid for saying that
Yeah.
now because
That's
at,
funny.
at this point in our history, it's like, why are we even surprised at anything?
Yeah, we
anymore?
shouldn't be. But at the same point, you hope to God and humanity
Right.
that this motherfucker would not
Yeah.
do that.
Go to that.
But
well, that's the
But he
thing.
did. But he did.
That's the thing. Same thing with the Fire Festival. Me and Morgan were sitting there literally like, what?
But see, I
And like
believe-
another thing would come around and you're like, what? No
But see,
way,
I
dude. believe
that one because I've been in that situation.
Well,
I've been a part of a
again-
team where my boss
Yeah.
was buying $100,000 things.
That's what I'm saying. You're
Making
like,
shit look like it's all this stuff, and I'm in the background going, "Yo, this whole ship is sinking. What the fuck are we gonna
Right.
do?" And they're going, "Hey, dude, you're family. You're a part of this. You need to fucking sack up. Keep the presentation there."
Everything's fine.
Yeah, it's an iceberg. You have to maintain the tip of that iceberg, even though underneath you're eroding at the
But
bottom.
that's what. It's just funny that that's a comparison. Like the same thing that we think of like the positive side, where like surely to God people wouldn't put in that much hard work to impact people, and it's like yeah, I will.
But let's call it.
You flip flop that. Surely to God somebody's not gonna do all that work to could completely destroy someone.
Let's call it what
But
it
they
is.
did.
Too.
They did.
But let's call it what it is too. Us as 3 straight white males, it's not a good look
Speak
for
for
me.
yourself. I'm just kidding.
It's not a good look for me to come out, especially with a platform, and go, this gay black dude's lying.
Well, no.
So you have to, now again, there's some of that should always
Well,
be
like, you
aired
wanna-
on the side of
Yeah,
caution.
you want to, especially if people have been victimized, like, you want to believe them.
You want to empathize.
But you
Right,
like,
like, you know, it's like, dude, I hate
mean, that
for
sucks,
you.
bro. I
That
hope you're
sucks,
okay.
You know,
And
I
then
hope
they
you're
come
alright.
out
And then it's
low.
like, will you just make that, like, why?
But-
Why
I don't hope you're okay.
But for me, like, and you can hear it, I don't know how many episodes ago it was. When the story initially broke, I recorded a podcast that night.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, I don't want to say this, but, like, that's horseshit. It just doesn't add up. Like, it
And now
just
that you,
doesn't.
right, like, when somebody put that,
Yeah.
I think Dad was the one that was telling me, he's like, when you really think about it, like, that story didn't add up.
And when to me the
Yeah,
Covington boys school thing didn't add up either. There's too much. There was white Catholic kids wearing MAGA hats with black Jewish rallies across the street.
Yeah, and nobody ever talked about the
Yeah.
Black Israelites.
And then there
Nobody
was
ever talked
a
about
couple Indian dudes walking around with a drum. There's too much in that story for me to believe that organically manifested itself on its own.
So here's
Just
something horrible. This just shows you how pigeonholed I am as far as like the. I could have I even had to I had to listen to the podcast to know I don't even know that guy, but
Josie?
I found out 2 days ago that MAGA is Make America Great Again.
You really didn't know?
You didn't know that?
Heck no, man.
Wow.
I don't listen to anything.
Ooh.
When I go for politics stuff,
Mhm.
I call up my twin brother over there, and I'm like, "Hey, man, what's going on with the world these days?"
Dude.
And I ask, you can ask him. I ask probably every other month.
I fucking hate it because at my job I have to have Fox News on in my
So
office.
you're a conservative piece of crap.
And I have to
I'm just
look at it all day long, and I have to make I have the awareness to go, okay, this is a conservative point of view that I'm being filled in my mind all day long with them telling me this is how it is.
Yeah.
So if I would have followed the Fox News route, I'd have said, good, fuck that piece of shit.
Yeah.
Fuck him, I hope he burns in hell.
Yeah.
My first reaction
You
was,
said that?
I did.
Those hot chicks on Fox News said that?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
My first reaction was that. Good. Fuck that guy. I hope he goes to jail. Afterwards, I had to look, what do I believe?
Right.
As somebody who's gone through it, been judged, made mistakes that were on a colossal level or could have been on a colossal
right.
level,
Yeah.
you then have to go, okay, Fox News can judge this guy, but let's pull whatever that anchor's name.
Right.
Let's put a microscope on her whole fucking life. And you tell me if everyone in America would be on your side throughout your whole story. Guess what? It wouldn't.
Probably not.
And one of my favorite quotes is, the thing that would ruin you, you've already done it. The thing that would absolutely destroy your life and destroy the empire you're building, you've already done that thing.
Absolutely.
That's why I started my show, Road to Redemption, airing out all my dirty laundry. It was kind of selfish.
No, but I mean.
But at the same time,
Your
when I
intentions.
hit to a point, nobody can then come back and go, did you know this motherfucker had 3 DUIs and went to jail and, after a deployment didn't see his daughter for 9 months? Like, you lean into the curve and you go, hey, this is what I did. I don't want you to do these things.
That's a good.
But my whole thing, I mean, I'm kind of with you. It's like, I do believe at the end of it, like, there's always room for redemption for people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think what Smollett did, it's really screwed up. But at the end of the day, like, if there's an opportunity for redemption that, you know, he can come back from this, then sure. I mean,
And I hope he does.
I mean, you've heard of.
I hope he does.
You've heard of a lot of different. There's a lot of those stories out there, man.
and I mean, what he did, I mean, granted, it's bad.
It's really not that big of a deal.
Probably not the absolute worst thing he could have done. So
It's the fear of what if.
yeah,
Because here's the realness of, if you look at the whole story, had the Chicago police officers, just by circumstance, found 2 dudes wearing MAGA hats and they got them on camera that night and they were relatively in the area, they would put those fuckers in jail and he would have allowed them, 2 innocent people, to go to prison.
Well, that's
So for that, you have to go, Now, he's not looking at those individuals in jail every day. He's not thinking about what their families are going through. So you have to take the human aspect kind of out of it. But for me to go, okay, dude, here was your intention. Ooh, boy, you had a real chance to fuck some people. Fuck them hard.
But see, yeah, that's
But he didn't think that far into it.
No.
It was a very clumsy plan.
Right.
Very clumsy. I mean, literally, you hired 2 ginormous black men to portray 2 white guys.
And not just black guys, but like they were from Africa. Like they
Nigeria.
were Nigerian.
And they're gigantic. They're humongous human beings.
Yeah, these 2 white guys got me. What?
But, and also,
like,
these two
They
guys...
come from Lagos, Nigeria.
They also, for whatever reason and whatever path they were on in their life, went, okay, he's going to give us $3,400. That was the extent of what they thought, which is why these 2 guys are not going to go to jail.
To be honest with you, I'd whoop somebody's ass for $3,400.
If you called me and said, hey, I need to do this. Now, again, today is a different story.
Well, yeah.
I would really rethink things today.
Tyler, I'd kick your ass for $20.
I was going to say, there's a couple people in this world...
boxing gloves if you guys want to.
I don't think we need gloves. But there's a couple people in this world that if someone called me and said, listen, I need you to punch this guy in the face for $100, I wouldn't think twice.
I'm there.
I'd be like, sure. I mean, I'd feel bad. I'd be like, listen, I'm really sorry, Cam. Taylor's giving me $100.
I'd have to know who I'm hitting first.
I'm just kidding.
See, I'm different. I'm at the point in my life now where I just want to be left the fuck alone. If you call me going, dude, I'll give you $5,000 to go tune this guy up. You know, you got some of the training now. Go tune this guy up. And by the way, which I'm sure he told these people, you're gonna get away with it. Nothing bad's gonna happen to you.
Yes,
I would still go, you know what, dude, I got CBD, I could roll one right now.
The thing is,
I
like,
could blow it in the air and say, fuck all this.
These guys, I mean, they're not going to face any criminal charges or
The
anything
2
like
guys
that.
won't, no.
But I don't think anybody will ever take them seriously. It's like they're actors, right?
But in 6 months, do you think anybody will remember those 2 faces?
I think next week nobody's
Yeah,
going to remember this.
No. No, those 2 kids, if they wanted to, they could go get hired on a TV show, and in 6 months you'd be like, that guy kind of looks like the whatever. But you wouldn't say that, because then you would be saying that all black people look alike, and you'd be like, well, I'll just keep that shit to myself. So again, it's all going to go away, just like the fear that nobody wanted to say that this gay black dude was making up a story.
Fair enough.
It can dissolve into itself that same way. Because, again, the fear of what could be. Again, if Jussie Smollett comes out of jail and applies for a job, am I going to say you shouldn't hire him because of what he used to be?
Right.
No, because I'm a white guy and I have privilege, and also I've been a piece of shit in my life. I can't say that.
Right. I've been a piece of
It's
shit.
easy to judge people sitting from a high horse. It's easy to sit on top of this, oh, look at me judging on you, instead of really turning a reflective eye on yourself and going...
And that's very true. That's so true.
Yeah.
Which is something we need to stop doing, because the only reason he thought he was able to do what he did was because there are people who want to sit up on that mountaintop and go, fuck you, and everything you say. It's not possible that you could say things as a joke. It's not possible that you could say things, because guess what? Some of it is true. I mean, you can't just say things anymore, and that's kind of, we're at a dangerous spot, but that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
As to the almost mandatory censorship that you have to have.
That's my thing. I'm gonna just hang out and do my thing.
And people ask me all the time, like, dude, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? For me, the way I operate, rolling up my CBD, sitting in here, smoking, recording a podcast, getting my shit out on paper, that's not for everybody.
No.
But I believe that it's for enough people that it could positively affect my life, my family's life, and the people who choose to listen.
Right.
I'm good with that.
Well, I mean, think about
I don't need to judge Jussie Smollett and do that to make my life better.
Think about Joe Rogan. Think about all the stuff and all the people on his podcast. Obviously, I know people that don't like listening to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Oh, yeah, there are people that fucking hate Joe Rogan.
Yeah. Like,
they think he's a racist. They think he's a bigot.
Awesome,
because he says the N-word openly on his shit.
Right.
Now, again, would I? No. Only because I understand how one person may...
But he isn't using it for Jordan.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't, which is why I don't get offended by it.
Right.
But also, I don't have a great-grandfather who I have pictures of with scars all over his body.
Right.
That's not in my realm. So I choose not to judge the people that may be offended by that. But at the same time, I just go, it's not my...
CBS?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. But it's one of those things, man. I love the space that we're in, especially, again, we'll take it back to podcasting and then we'll roll it out. I don't know if you guys got to roll.
Another hour.
I love that we can get on this mic and we can sit and we can talk, and also that people can disagree with what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because people have the opportunity to go, Cam, you're a fucking moron. Guess what? create your own fucking podcast
Good for
about
you.
how I'm a moron.
Good for you, James, in
Yeah.
Ohio. Good for you.
And I've had it. I had just the other day, and you guys can both probably talk on this. I don't know if you would really have any experience in this area. Maybe you do, and you'll have a cool story. Yesterday, 2 days ago, I posted a video up of my kickboxing shit. Some guy who doesn't follow me, who just found me through a hashtag, sees this video, and he comments, "Keep your fucking hands up." Because when I was working, it was him.
I did say that though.
Did you?
I watched that video. I was like, man, you need to keep your hands.
Keep your fucking hands up.
Yeah.
To me, right? I know what I'm doing in the space.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not actively fighting someone. I'm more worried about the technique. But me, as someone who doesn't take criticism well, I'm like, fuck that guy. Even though he's right.
He was right.
He was right, and I should have kept my hands.
Good job, James, in Ohio.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
just kidding.
So, but with this podcast, I get the same thing.
Yeah.
Cam, dude, why the fuck do you do this? Why do you cuss so much? What do you do? Because that's me, and also I'm just showing you who I was in that moment.
Right.
I'm not claiming that I was perfect in that moment, but I get frustrated as balls when someone goes, "Keep your fucking hands up." But it's not because
So
it's not because you want me to be better.
Right.
That's not why you want me to
they
keep
were
my hands up. You wanted to comment that so the people in the comment thread saw you say that and police me up.
That's why I didn't say anything, because I was going to text you and be like, hey, man,
keep your fucking hands up.
love what
I
you're doing, but...
I have a professional fighter that I hang out with
Yeah.
relatively often. And every time he sees me, he fucks my life up over my technique. I'm not a professional fighter. So I listen to him as someone I respect, and I go, okay, yes, I take all that in, and I try to apply it when I'm in kickboxing or Muay Thai. But then at the same time, when I don't do it flawlessly, I'm like, not a professional
But if
fighter.
you're not going to be a professional fighter, it really doesn't make any difference.
Right.
I kind of had something similar to that.
I was curious if you would have anyone that would be like, dude, that's not what a vampire would look like, or that's
Vampires don't talk.
what vampire would say that.
Not really, but every now and then, it's actually two things. Every now and then I get somebody that will just kind of come up to me and be like, you ought to do... Which, if somebody gives me, like, story ideas, like, hey, maybe you should do an episode about, a troll monster or something, I think that'd be really cool. It's like, okay, that's an interesting thought. Because, I'm always open to different kinds of monsters or folk tales.
But that just gives you a perspective you may
Right.
not have had before.
Exactly, because I need that kind of content anyway. But every now and then I'll get advice from somebody. They'll just be like, man, you ought to, like, do your show like this. Maybe, like, I remember somebody suggested that I literally break the fourth wall and just, like...
Talk to the audience as...
Like, basically, like, in a comedic twist, like, reveal that I'm actually Tylor Gentry. Like,
not the count.
Yeah, and I'm like...
That ruins the whole...
I'm like, no, that ruins the whole point of the show.
Hey, I had a mentor, Greg Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
Love him to
Great
death.
man.
Great guy.
Great man.
He always told me the first 2 weeks of me doing I'll never make that show. The first 2 weeks of me meeting him, it said, listen, man, you got a vision, you stick to it, because everybody will want to run your business like you.
Oh my God.
Everyone will want to run your business.
I mean, fuck, dude.
I mean, everyone.
How many people give you their opinion? Hey, if I was doing what you were doing, this is how I would do it. It's like, yeah, but you're also not fucking doing it.
Right.
No, I get that. I get that a lot.
And I'm not you.
You take it with a grain of salt, man.
And then sometimes, like, I had somebody come up to me who's like, you should have this person on your show. And I looked them up, and it's like, they weren't exactly, like, horror related. They were like death metal. And, like...
So you could find a commonality there, but it would be a
little
far
bit,
stretch.
but then, yeah, and it's like, I don't know. It didn't... I find guests that interest me.
Yeah.
So, I talk to actors. I talk to...
right.
Because I actually just recorded an interview from an actress. She lives in LA now, but she was born and raised in South Africa.
See the Africa?
See, now that's a cool perspective.
And she has, like, her film credits are super impressive. Like, she's in the sequel to I Spit on Your Grave, which is a very
popular,
well-known horror exploitation
horror
film. So she's gonna be in that, and I think she was also in... I'd have to look again. I think she was in, like, a Blumhouse horror film, so, like, The Conjuring or something like that. Like, yeah, she was in... Like, she's got some really interesting credentials. So, like, I find her interesting. And then, some of the filmmakers I've had in the past, like Anthony Rouse and Joshua Kennedy and Michael Neal, like, they make really great films, but they're also really good people. So I love to promote their work.
Well, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Tyler, I'm sure you'll have an interesting perspective on this, only because I've worked in this space with you a little bit.
Oh, this will be good.
Collaborations. Collaborating with other people. Do you have people that are offered up to you or offer themselves up to you that are like, hey, dude, we should do something together? Now, in podcasting, that's the best. When you collaborate with others and you get to use their audience and they use yours, that's how this shit works. Really, collaboration and being consistent in your posting time and being a talent, being able to do this, that's really all you need. You can improve production value, but the people you collaborate with can really make you or break you. Because if you have an episode, like say you took the death metal guy, maybe the best episode you ever had. But if you don't take your artist, which is what you are, and you don't listen to your gut and go, man, I don't think we should do this. I think it could go too many ways that are south to southwest. Either way, I don't see this going well.
Right.
But you feel bad by going, I just don't think.
I've off of all of the collabs that I've done, like it's
always worked out.
Well, it's not necessarily worked out because I've put faith in a lot of people that just let me down too. But
same here.
I go off my gut. Yeah, like we're doing Ambition's gonna be doing a collab at the end of March with a DJ, like a good DJ in Nashville.
Yeah.
And we're putting his logo all over the shirt and putting our logo on it, and it's gonna be sick. And
what you did for me, my shirts have Ambition on it.
Yeah. So like, it's just and. That, for a perfect example, it didn't work out as great as we anticipated.
Yeah, we didn't
get
orders, but
right, but it worked out, but it didn't work out like.
But I learned a lesson in that.
Exactly.
I learned big lessons.
That's my thing. Is like even with this thing with this DJ, like. It could be the dopest collab ever, and I have a vision for it, which is why I even agreed to it.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been entertained.
I wouldn't. Yeah, so I have a vision for it, but it could also cost a couple $100, like I don't want to lose a couple $100. He doesn't want to lose a couple $100, and nobody wants to lose a couple $100.
Same here. I've had a lot of really great people who I've had the chance to collaborate on in certain episodes. Then there were times where, we arranged something and then on the other end they kind of fell through for me. I've had that happen with like a couple of folks who at the time had larger audiences than I did, and I was like, hey, would you like to do some voice work for an episode? And they were like, sure. And then it's like, okay, well, this is kind of when I need it by. If you can kind of get this to me this week, we'll be good. I wouldn't hear anything from him after that.
See, that to me chaps my fucking balls.
It does, but
if you have agreed to work on a project with me and I've given you a deadline, because to me, in my realm, now this is selfish, I have to have my episode posted by Sunday at 9 o'clock to be consistent. So if you're sending me your audio at Sunday at 8:30, I'm fucked. Because I have 2.5 hours now that I have to edit and clip and
that right there falls in the same thing we were talking about earlier, which is things. Yes, it can champ your ass, but it can't keep you from doing anything.
It still is what it is. You still got to.
You got to lean with the curve.
Put it together.
If you don't, you're like, oh well, we'll just figure it out.
And I've had to do that before.
Yeah.
Now you more because you're not yet into the realm where you've interviewed a lot of people. Have you ever interviewed someone that the interview, whether you had to restart it and do it over again, where the interview was fucking painful to sit through?
A couple times.
That is not something easy to overcome.
But the thing is, those particular interviews that I'm talking about, I never published them.
I did. I have one that was published, and I pulled with every public speaking, human resource management, every tool in my toolbox. I fucking used it. Trying to get this person to just talk. Just tell me what I'm asking. When I ask you a question, answer and give me some fucking detail. Give me something that I can go off of.
It's cool.
I worked really hard on that.
Right.
And then it's fucking dead silence. You're like, what was that process like? Oh man, it was fucking tough. Yeah, but and you're like, God bless America. Like, even if I hit the pause button and told this person, like, okay, look, that was fucking brutal.
Yeah.
When I ask you something, give me as much detail as you can.
Yeah, literally.
So if they don't have that in them to be that storyteller, to be that personality, that episode is hard to listen to.
Yeah.
But do you know what that does to an interviewer?
Yeah.
What that teaches you? So then when people listen to your show 10 years later, your early episodes are like, yeah, blessed.
And fortunately for me, I've been blessed. I've had just about all of the folks that I've had on Count Drahoon have ended up becoming friends of mine.
That's good.
Like, this is a way for me to meet friends, and I did, and you can definitely see that. Like, they, you know, these folks love coming back because they enjoy the time that they're on the show. A matter of fact, I had the privilege of interviewing a guy last year who he's got a podcast called Not Alone Podcast. His name's Sam Fredrickson, and he told me after the interview, he's like, "Man, this is the funnest interview I've ever done." He's like, "This was so cool. Like, you've got a really good thing going here." But there was this one interview I did. I never published it, and I won't say their names. And to be honest with you, I kind of forgot their names, but I don't think they did.
Sick burn.
I don't think that they ever
suck on that interview.
I don't think they did any homework on what the show was or what it was about.
Sure.
So, and it was an international call. They were calling in from Canada.
Yeah.
And
he's got an invoice for you
for
that phone bill.
So the connection was bad.
That sounds fun.
That was one thing, and the other thing was like they didn't get it. Like, they didn't understand that they were talking to somebody who was portraying a character. And it's like, on the one end, like, I understand they couldn't talk a whole lot about their movie, because I deal with folks that are making movies and they can't talk about it because of non-disclosure agreements and stuff like that. But there's ways around it. Like, you can give me details and, you know, and I asked them really simple questions, like, what's your favorite movie? You know, your favorite horror movie? And they were just like,
I really like Mission Impossible.
Whoa, that's a really hard question. I wasn't expecting it. It's like,
you don't know how to talk to someone?
Like seriously, like if you're an actor and a filmmaker, like your favorite movie, or you're like at least like your favorite 5 movies, like that's off the top of your head.
I'm not
automatic.
Either of those, and I can name.
Or
those.
Give me a movie that you watched most recently and say it's your fucking favorite. Let's talk about it. Like, give me something.
No, that was a painful interview, and it was one of those things. It's like I did ask them to call in again because we needed to re-record because the audio was so bad. And honestly, it was one of those things. It's like, you know, it did work out. Probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But that was really the only time. And, you know, I've had some interviews that may have been a little bit easier than others. There were some that I was just dreadfully nervous. I was really nervous about the Christopher R. Mim interview because that was probably one of the first... Well, I shouldn't say that because really everybody is big in their own right. But... You know, Mim was a big deal in the classic monster community, so I knew that I was going to leverage a lot of people from that niche. Yeah. And then Sam Fredrickson had a really big following. Josh Kennedy's got and Anthony Rouse has got a pretty big following too. But, and I mean this as a compliment, but I've interviewed Rouse so many times that
it's like it's
and it's funny because like one of the interviews we did, I totally screwed up on it. I'm like, buddy, we're going to have to re-record. He's like, all right, man, no problem.
No problem.
So
That's awesome.
Well, and I think, I want to urge people, you guys can go back, I don't remember what episode it was. I think it was, again, in the single digits, episode 6, was our first interview, the 3 of us sitting together. If you go and listen to that episode, and then listen to this one, you would see a dynamic change.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think you would...
Even in the audio.
Yeah, I think the way that we talk, the way that the stories have flown, the way that just the episode has flown, I think you feel that it's way more smooth. It's as polished out naturally. I don't have to edit any of this.
Okay, I'm sorry. You were talking about just like this podcast like as a whole. Like, no, there's always a huge. Yeah, like the first episode of Count Drahoon's Feature Fright, as opposed to like the last audio story we did, Briny Depth. Like a monumental difference.
Well, and you fall into your own.
Yeah,
so
you gotta get a groove.
You stop doing things that are kind of off-brand. You stop doing collaborations with people when you're like, you know, I get it all the time. People DM me, hey man, I'd love to be on your show, and it's like, oh yeah, let me look at your profile. You're a 17-year-old fucking kid. What the hell are we going to talk about? Like, it's going to be me telling you to stay in school, don't do drugs. Like, what the fuck am I going to tell you? Like,
that's something that I'm learning from y'all and other people as far as that goes, as far as the interview process goes. That's just something I got to keep.
And it's something I'm still improving on. Yeah. I mean, I'm better now than I was the very first interview, but even still, like, I re-listen to it all whenever. By the way, I have a great sound mixer, Aaron Trimble.
And I do not.
Phenomenal. But you still do a good job. Great job, Cam. sorry, I lost my train of thought. Aaron, whenever he sends me the episodes back, like I listen to, my interview with that, this person. The interviews I do with folks I've had before to me are usually better because like I'm comfortable. Like if something goes wrong, I know that I can re-record with them. It's all going to be good, and they kind of understand that I may stumble on my words. I'm going to need to start over again, and they're fine. But I get super nervous when it's like a one-time deal, like when I'm...
you can't...
Like David Cummings, he's the host of the No Sleep podcast, which is a pretty big horror podcast.
Right. What was the one that had boobs in the title?
That was Matt Desideria. He was the guy with the Horror Collective. He does...
what was the name of... I forget how boobs came into play.
No, that's the name of his organization. It's called Horror Boobs.
Horror Boobs, that's it.
They do showings in New York. They talk about...
How many boobs are in horror?
No, just like
he literally has nothing to do with boobs.
They show like rare, obscure horror and exploitation films. So if you're into that kind of thing, a lot of those movies have a lot of nudity and violence. So that's
shit. Look at the Rob Zombie.
Yeah, but that's why the name of the organization is called Horror Boobs.
That motherfucker.
Right.
Some of his movies, you're like, Jesus.
But interviews like that, especially a first time meeting. So like I was a little nervous with this actress. I was also like really sick and doped up on medicine, so probably not in my best state of mind. But it is a little nerve wracking for me because it's like, okay, I have to be the character, but at the same time I'll also have to make sure my equipment's working. And the pacing's good and all that. There's like a lot of factors that are running through my head.
Yeah. And
I'm also trying to have a decent conversation with this person. And on the other end, like, in between the show, like whenever, we're first getting started and when we end, I'm trying to develop a rapport with these people because I'm also social networking.
Yeah.
Like I'm meeting new contacts. So.
Well, that's very difficult as well. So, like, especially in the early stages, like for me, it's just me here in the studio. So where I've had you to help me click the camera, for me, it's usually me. I have to look in the mirror to see if the camera shut off, reset the camera, make sure that, whatever, and that I'm talking and holding a normal thought process. And by doing all those things, I don't pay attention to the fact that there's a fan blowing and just fucking my audio.
You'd be surprised how much you miss.
Oh, yeah.
It's...
Or that sometimes you just do something like... Like, I was drained. I had been on the road for 9.5 hours. I came home. I was sick as balls. I smoked CBD, and I got so relaxed. And then I was literally on a podcast like this. Hey guys. And I'm going a million places that a sleep-deprived brain would go. Yeah. And I watched that episode back, and that was the one where the fan was blowing. And I'm like, why in the fuck did I publish that episode? But... you gotta publish it, and you have to laugh at it.
Yeah,
you gotta laugh at it. So, let's break it down. Let's tell people what do you got going on, Tyler. What do you got going on?
Oh boy, this is my favorite part. Ambition Threads is a motivating lifestyle brand empowering individuals to be the best version of themselves.
Which, if you watch the YouTube video, you should be able to see a few examples. Tyler's rocking the hoodie. I got a shirt on. I had the hat on.
Yep. A lot of cool things coming out. Hoodies restocked next week.
I actually wore a t-shirt, an Ambition t-shirt in the movie yesterday.
Oh, did you? Cool.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, man. It started a while ago. Doing some... Do you have one on right now?
No, I got my ACD shirt.
Oh, even better.
ACDC shirt.
But yeah, a lot of cool stuff's coming up with that. We're gonna do a next month. We're gonna do a crop collection for females, and like I said, with that collab with the DJ. And I just want to, man. I say this lightly, but I just want to make it the biggest and best clothing brand that's come up in the last few years. So there's a lot of big plans with that. Obviously. Taylor helped me record the podcast, which I got to get you an interview on. Taylor's going to be on. There's a lot of...
Is it just you talking or both of you talking?
No, it's just... I mean,
I put in like a couple words here.
It's cool.
He's the audio engineer, and he fed you.
Exactly, yeah. So...
Which is good when you have somebody who has experience.
Yeah, exactly, which is why I wanted him to do it.
He might have pulled you out
so
of
that podcast, just to kind of give you a little glimpse, the first one's going to be... It's roughly my story and where I see it going, and it's mainly entrepreneur stories and stories that just impact me and that kind of coexists with the brand.
How long are you expecting each
This first
episode to be?
episode.
The first
It's not even
episode.
half an hour.
Yeah,
Okay,
I was gonna
sure.
say
Like
it's
less than
probably
that.
10 minutes.
So it's a
Not
quick
10 minutes, it's about,
snapshot.
it's about 20.
Oh,
it's
it's okay.
closer to 20.
So it's about 20 minutes.
It's
and
a
then there's-
highlight of you.
Yeah, yeah, and then
You gotta factor in music too, which you haven't
right, yeah,
picked
I've
yet.
got that, but yeah.
Be careful, copyright on
oh, yeah.
podcasts.
I've got an
is
ambition
what
song,
it
so
is.
it's not copyrighted.
Oh,
Yeah,
that one.
the Marcel one.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
So that, and then it's the eventual goal is to, and I don't know when this will happen, but I'm going to do interviews with entrepreneurs, and also it's going to be a Motivation Monday thing with me doing those. Same thing with what I do on my personal Instagram stories,
Yeah.
as far as
Tell them.
motivating topics that I motivate on, as far as enjoying the process and things like that. Just because those are things that I looked into when I was doing my journey as an entrepreneur, so I wanted to kind of do that.
You're gonna kill it in the podcast space.
I hope
Just
so.
For the
I
love
hope
of God,
so.
be consistent.
Yeah. That's
got
going to be
to.
the hardest part, just because I'm so.
Because if you come consistent with it, people will listen.
I hope so.
They will.
I've gotten a lot of feedback from it, so that'll be cool. Yeah, so that's the ambition side. I'm also the marketing director for Nutrition Factory still, so that's a lot. We got a lot of crap coming. We actually got a store in Clarksville coming soon, so you'll be able to get your supplement and CBD needs. Well,
You guys
can't
doing
do
CBD?
it. Yeah.
But yeah, I've
whenever
got.
you got all them, but yeah, whenever supplements or whatever you need as far as that goes. And Nutrition Factory's killing it, man. We've 11 stores in 14 months, or 14 stores. Excuse me, 12 stores in 14 months. We're projected 20 by the end of the year. That's a full-time job. But
That's
it's
a
a lot.
work.
It's a lot of fun, man. I got a lot of good people around me. We built a good team. Mike
You're
Byers
learning a
is
lot of
crushing it.
lessons.
Yeah, learning too much, honestly. And yeah, at Ambition Dreadsco on Instagram, at Ambition Podcast. We started that. At _ Tylor, Tylor, Gentry, Gentry.
And all the links for these will be.
Yeah, Nutrition Factory's Factory with a K, Faktory. And man, I just want to. In closing, Canvas thing's awesome. I listen when I can listen, which is not as much as I want it to be, but it's awesome. You're still killing the game.
Appreciate you.
Same
brother.
thing I say every time.
Yeah, appreciate you. Taylor, what you got for him? Plug your dates, because you got some dates coming up here.
Well, not officially yet. I'm waiting on final confirmation from a few places. Right now, I have 2 for sure venues that are going to host a Count Drahoon live show this summer.
That's awesome.
Right now, I'll go ahead and tell you the names of the organizations. Right now, I'm working with Spooky's Pizza in. They're going to be opening up a second location in Wartrace, Tennessee. They're actually opening it at the Walking Horse Hotel in Wartrace, which is one of the most haunted spots in America.
I wouldn't be at that one.
That's dope.
So we'll be performing there hopefully in June. I told Joe Peters, the manager, that I'd call back in March to actually schedule a date to where we were going to perform there. And then I've also been working with a new nonprofit organization in Murfreesboro called Radical Arts, and we're in the process of nailing down a date for our show there. So I know I think I can safely say that I know for sure I will be performing for those 2 entities sometime, hopefully in June or July. And I'm waiting to hear back from 2 other theaters in Murfreesboro, Murfreesboro Little Theater and Center for the Arts. I'm waiting for them to give me essentially final confirmation on whether or not we'll be performing there. With MLT, they did ask me for a date. I gave them one. Tentatively, hopefully, we will be performing there on June 21st, but that isn't confirmed yet, so I'm waiting to hear back from them on whether or not that'll work or not. And hopefully, if June 21st won't work, we can actually negotiate a date that will.
The podcast.
So, yeah, no, the podcast, like I said earlier, we're kind of in this weird transition right now. I'm basically moving over to a new site. So I've actually got a new RSS feed that's up.
Okay.
So if you happen to listen to Count Drahoon, there will be links in the show notes page to switch over to the new RSS feed.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah, so go ahead and do that.
Pay attention to that.
Because by May 10th, we will not be broadcasting out of our old RSS feed.
Gotcha.
Still trying to do 2 a month, which typically I put out an episode on the 10th and the 25th of every month. Here lately, we've been kind of missing the mark a little bit, but we are still consistently having 2 episodes or 2 postings a month. So
tentatively.
Yes. So we're trying to get back to normal during this whole transition process. That and the live shows. Also, I did forget to mention I do for sure have 2 dates I can give you. We're going to be doing 2 live shows at 2 conventions in the fall. We're going to be at the Imperial Collectors Convention September 13th through the 15th in Nashville. And we're also going to be at Imaginarium Convention in Louisville, Kentucky, October the 13th through the 15th.
Perfect.
So we will be performing for those 2 conventions for sure. And there's going to be like 4,000 people between those 2 conventions. So it's a big deal.
That's huge.
But for updates, go to featurefright.com. That's where you can find Count Drahoon's Feature Fright. I'm also on iTunes. Pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts, YouTube, social media at Count Drahoon. Also on Twitter. If you give us a like on Facebook, and if you want to, I'm not really pushing it as much as the Count Drahoon stuff. I do have my own personal Instagram. It's the Tylor Gentry. It's just me taking pictures with my dog, so that's more or less what it is.
A few selfies.
Right, there's a few selfies there, but definitely follow at Count Drahoon. I've almost got more followers on Count Drahoon than I do my personal page, so hopefully by March,
hook it up, people. Give him a shout.
Yeah, come on. I gotta have more people following Count Drahoon.
I think it's fun to follow the man behind the scenes, especially someone like you who portrays a character. I think it's fun to watch
for sure.
the real life side of it.
Well, it's not as fun for me because I have to live.
And you're in the selfies too sometimes. So.
Yeah, while you were laid up in your hernia couch.
Listen, man, that's brutal.
So for me, I hate doing this to you guys. We got a few things that are coming up that I cannot talk about. Contracts are in the works. Things are being moved around, but we got a lot of big things coming for you guys. And in the next year, we are looking to do live shows across the country.
Closing in on a
That's
hundo.
awesome.
You're closing in on a hundo, aren't you?
Hundo episodes we've got planned for March 19th. You two, a couple other people will be back.
Just leaked. Whoa.
Oh, was it March or May? I think it was May. May 19th, you two, a couple other people will be back in the studio. We're going to be doing like a grand 100th episode where we've got everybody who I enjoy and have the logistic capability of having them physically in the studio with me is going to be here. But again, we're making a push to do live shows, and it'll be set up where I do a regular episode for 30 minutes, and then we do kind of a Q&A. Hey, this is what's going on in my life. Give me your perspective. And if you disagree, great. Give me your disagreement. We'll talk it out all together. It'll be kind of like this. This podcast was roughly 2.5 hours. You guys already know, at Kim Williamson Official on Instagram, Road, the number 2, Redemption Podcast on anywhere you can find podcasts, including the video version, which it will be on YouTube at Kim Williamson Official. With that, guys, we love you. Tyler's making hand signs that you can't see because the camera died. And with that, we are out.